Hey everybody, tonight we're debating socialism versus capitalism, and we are starting right now.
Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, thrilled to have you here for another epic debate. If this is your first time here at Modern Day Debate, want to let you know we are a neutral channel hosting debates on science, religion, and politics. And want to let you know, no matter what walk of life you're from, very serious folks, politically left, politically right, middle, you name it, folks. We're thrilled to have you with us. Thanks for hanging out. And also want to let you know, if it's your first time here, or hey, maybe you've been here many a times, but you've not subscribed yet, well, now is the time to do so you don't miss this debate coming up tomorrow night, as Vosh and Endernax are going to tango one-on-one, and in fact, on this very topic, socialism versus capitalism. So if we don't settle the issue tonight, well, we darn sure will tomorrow. So hit that subscribe button for a reminder so you don't miss it when it's live tomorrow night. And also want to let you know, folks, did you not know that we have a podcast? And I have been so encouraged. We have gotten so much positive feedback, and the downloads, people have, apparently it's been really useful. So we're really excited, folks. Please do pull out your phone right now. And if you can't find us on your favorite podcast app, let me know. Shoot me an email at moderndaydebate@gmail.com, and I will work to get on that podcast app for you, as we want that to be of value to you. We hope it's useful, and thanks so much. So we are also linked for our podcast in the description, right under the guest links, who we are about to introduce right now. So they, as I had mentioned, have their links in the description, and we want to give them a chance to share what you can expect to find at their links. So thrilled to have you guys here. Seriously, I'm so excited for this. This is always, it just gets me in a great mood to get to do this. And so we'll start with Stephen, aka Cider and Port. And so thanks so much, Stephen, for being back with us again. The floor is all yours. What can people expect to find at your link?
Well, thank you so much for having me back, James. Obviously, what people can expect to find at my link, I mean, it's a socialist soy boy getting wrecked with facts and logic, I guess. No, I stream every Saturday and every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern. I talk about various news stories. I react to people. So if you are on the right and if you disagree with me, you can find me at my link. Join in, and I'll have you on the show. We can talk about it.
You got it. Thanks so much, Stephen. And Leo, glad to have you back. And what can people expect to find at your link, my friend?
Yeah, James, it's great to be back on your fine channel once again. At my link on my channel, I mainly focus on science education and science communication with an emphasis on advanced concepts in astrophysics, cosmology, and quantum mechanics. Just yesterday, I premiered my first video in a new series where I explained some of those advanced concepts, and I explained what a wave function is in quantum mechanics and what they're used for. I do a little bit of politics. I'm going to try to keep it to 70 to 80% science on my channel, but I will be doing the typical leftist soy boy politics that Stephen was mentioning. So you can find a little bit of that there as well. And you can also find me on Twitter at Leophilius, spelled the way that you would see it on the screen. I don't know if my full name is on there actually or not, though.
So many soy boys. I love it. All right, we'll kick it over to CJ. Thank you for being here again, CJ. The floor is all yours. What can people expect to find at your link?
Yeah, and thank you again for having me. So my channel is called TheCynicogue. It's a portmanteau of cynic and synagogue, like the Jewish place of worship. I do actually two things on there so far. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I do a news show that I call The Watchdog. Kind of focuses, it talks a little bit about the United States, but focuses more on things going on in the Middle East and in the sort of like global religious sphere. And then I also do little apologetics videos that I title Unapologetics Light, or a Full Apologetics podcast I call Unapologetics. And those are the two things that I usually do on there. I'll also randomly post, some debates on there, things like live chats, open rooms, all the things of that nature. But that's my main thing is I like, apologetics, like faith stuff, studying religion, politics. I want to get into more history and philosophy. And that's the basics of it there. You can find it again at TheCynicogue, and any other sort of social media or video streaming I'm on is also going to be TheCynicogue.
Well, that just reminded me of something. We're going to come to you next, Maddox, but I do have to say, I just asked, because basically, we're looking for, if you happen to identify as woke, and you're like, what is woke, James? What do you mean? Here's what I mean. For example, Gina Carano, I think it's pronounced, the lady who was working on the Mandalorian Star Wars TV series, just got the boot. If you are like, yeah, I was like, fire her. if you take that position, for example, that's like a correlate of wokeness, right? So let us know, though, for real, if you happen to be what a lot of people would refer to as woke, let us know. Shoot me an email at moderndaydebate@gmail.com. We want diversity of thought here. And frankly, we don't have a ton of like full woke people. So want to let you know, let us know if you are. And hey, we want you to have representation here. So with that, John Maddox, thrilled to have you back as well. The floor is all yours. What can people expect to find at your link?
I appreciate you as always having me on for some more fun and frivolity. James, over my channel, I usually focus on atheism versus theism, creation versus evolution, intelligent design versus the variety of ideas on how we could possibly exist. And actually this Sunday night, I'm actually holding an after show for the post James Tour beatdown of Professor Dave on abiogenesis. So that should be pretty fun. You'll definitely want to come check that out because that's going to be definitely epic. But yeah, if you want to go to my channel, just come and bring ideas and thoughts and logic and rational expectations of the reasons for your existence.
Gotcha. And with that, we are thrilled to have our guests here. We're going to have our socialist guests go first. We appreciate them. And so want to remind you, friendly reminder to attack the arguments rather than the people. And we are going to give them a roughly 12 or so minute opening statement to split amongst themselves. And that's flexible if they need a bit more. But with that, the floor is all yours, gentlemen.
All right. Well, yeah, we had said that I would be kicking it off. So there has been a noticeable increase of fake outrage or smoke and mirrors surrounding discourses online of late. That is because, in my humble opinion, the conservatives of the world have realized that they cannot compete in the free marketplace of ideas and not get stomped on. And so they have effectively created controversy to get mad about. Nowhere was this clearer than in the amen, ah woman, pearl clutching outrage of early December, I think, mid-December. Or the 5 months last year where we spent talking about where trans people should be allowed to pee. Capitalism has failed for the average American. It has been a centuries-old experiment that has utterly failed. Only in a capitalist society will you find 45 to 60,000 Americans dying every single year because of the lack of basic healthcare. That was a stat that was pre-COVID. I can't even imagine what that number is now. Only in a capitalist society will you find college tuition as high as it is. College used to be basically free in the United States. It used to cost 45 cents and a packet of Pop-Tarts to go to college in California. Now it costs 60 grand plus for a degree. Only in a socialist society, or at the bare minimum borrowing from aspects of market socialism, will you find healthcare free at the point of service. Meaning that if you go to a doctor or to the hospital, you can leave your wallet at home because you won't need it. Only in a socialist society, in the workplace, are your managers and their managers appointed through the democratic process. Only in a socialist society will you find college free at the point of use. Only in a capitalist society will you find the cost of $8,000 to give birth, which has sometimes bankrupted a family of 4. Only in a capitalist society will you find the cost of the ride in a wee-woo wagon to be $1,000. Only in a capitalist society will you find its citizens rationing insulin only to die a month or so later anyway. Only in a capitalist society will you find new mothers with 0 paid time off by law if they get pregnant. These things and more only exist in a country that is overridden with the interests of capitalists with no consideration for the welfare and the well-being of its citizens. Healthcare is one of my favorite issues to talk about. It's always fun, but it's kind of often painful. What I'm arguing for basically is the package that the ultra wealthy get in the United States currently, which is the deluxe special edition, gold, platinum, extra, ultimate tier healthcare plan. That is that plan would be given to every single American. Nobody has to choose or should have to choose between feeding their family and giving their family healthcare. Nobody should have to choose between buying insulin or letting a loved one die. Now, a very common retort to these points is, well, you just got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, which apparently you don't realize is a phrase that we made up to make fun of you. It's an oxymoron. It's physically impossible to pull yourself up by your bootstraps because they're beneath you. I could go on, but with the time running out and to be more than fair to Leo, I'll move swiftly on. In the United States today, you have socialism for the rich and rugged individualism for the poor. To explain this, I thought that I would have to go back more than a decade, about 08, 09, during the subprime mortgage crisis and the Great Recession. But instead, I have to refer to less than a month ago when we see millionaires and billionaires crying on live TV because they might have to sell one of their holiday homes after a merry band of Reddit gamers stopped a hedge fund from fucking GameStop into the ground. Now and only now, after decades of them using market manipulation to get rich, are they begging for reform in the stock market. And let's not make any mistakes. This is to stop me, you, and every other person in the live chat from getting rich using the exact same tactics that they have been using for years. So if your one and only job as a grown adult human is to take money, move it over here, wait a little while, and then move it back over here again, I want to say my absolute and most sincere congratulations to every single person working in a fast food restaurant who is currently flipping burgers, because you have made a more of a worthwhile contribution to society than a hedge fund billionaire. That is the end of my time. I'll leave it over to Leo.
Yeah, that was based and bread pilled. So, as Stephen outlined, capitalism has failed. But it hasn't failed for everybody. It's only failed for, the majority of people. The reason for this is due to the way that capitalism is systemically structured. It is designed as a system to exploit an underclass of citizens and the labor that they provide to firms for the sake of profit. Now, what I want to do is advocate for a specific type of socialism. And both me and Stephen agree that this is the best form of socialism moving forward. That is called market socialism. This is a form of socialism that preserves market forces and market incentives, yet still yields a democratized workplace, which is the main reason that I'm a socialist, because I just love democracy. I think democracy is the best way for everybody to collectively govern themselves. Most of the first world nations on this planet are democracies. Why are we not extending the democratic system into the workplace? Why should it only exist within a political system? I see nothing wrong with it existing in the workplace. Unlike some other socialists, I wouldn't argue that socialism is unjust, because if we look at feudalism, or if we look at chattel slavery, or even the most recent ancestor, so to speak, of capitalism, mercantilism, capitalism is better than all of those systems. I don't view capitalism as a system that needs to be replaced. I view it as a system that has outlived its current use as society has continued to move forward. I do not view it as something that needs to be replaced, but as something that needs to be transcended. So how would I go about implementing market socialism? I would argue that the best way to do so is through worker cooperatives. That is, business firms that are structured in a way where the average worker is allowed to democratically elect all of their managers, their supervisors, and their executives. What this ensures is that these people that they're electing are running the businesses in a way that is beneficial for all of the people working at a business. People like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk are worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Yet what labor power do they contribute to the firms that they work at? Very little, if any. Throughout the majority of 2020, Jeff Bezos spent most of his time on his private yacht circling around the Pacific Ocean. He wasn't working in his manufacturing plants. He wasn't driving his trucks. He wasn't delivering any of the goods or services that people require from Amazon. His workers were doing that. Yet he is worth hundreds of billions of dollars, and these people struggle to make a living. The workers of some economic firm are the people who generate all of the value that firm sees, yet they do not share equitably in the profits that the firm gains from their labor, and I see that as immoral. Now, there are a lot of criticisms that people have of worker cooperatives. So to touch on those, most of the work on worker cooperatives has actually shown that they are a viable method for economic firms to utilize in ensuring that everybody that is employed at this firm shares in the profits that their labor generates. From John Pensaval at the Stanford Institute for Economic Policy Research, he argues exactly this. He states here that much has been learned about worker-owned and worker-managed enterprises. As a generalization, it does not seem accurate to describe worker co-ops as technically less efficient operations than the capitalist firm. Co-ops do face governance problems arising perhaps from the differences among worker owners, but when workers remain sufficiently homogeneous, they may look forward to a long life. On top of that, Virginie Perrotin at the University of Leeds also argues that worker cooperatives tend to be a net benefit, operating at a level of productivity and efficiency that matches, oftentimes exceeding that of the traditionalist capitalist firm. He states, quote, "The evidence to date, therefore, is remarkably consistent in showing that the key feature of worker cooperatives, increased worker participation, never causes performance to deteriorate in these firms, contrary to many theoretical predictions. Across countries, firm samples and methodologies, studies find greater participation in governance is a factor of increased productive efficiency in worker cooperatives, both in itself and perhaps in boosting the incentive effects of participation in ownership and or profit," end quote. John Penseville, again, working with Ben Craig at the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland, also argued that worker cooperatives, while they may face some problems because there is no system or no structure that will be free of all problems, argue the same thing. They state, quote, "There are several reasons why worker co-ops may operate more productively than corporate firms. First, a co-op mitigates the agency costs associated with a corporation's division between ownership and control. Worker owners are likely to be much better informed about actions taken by managers than are non-worker owners. Indeed, in the plywood co-ops studied below, managers have sometimes complained of what they regard as excessive involvement by the workers in day-to-day managerial decisions. However, the workers view their behavior more constructively under such a system," end quote. And finally, from Georgianne M. Arts and Yunjun Kim at Iowa State University, they also argue in favor of the structure of worker cooperatives and the benefit that they can have to society, arguing, quote, "Existing empirical evidence provides somewhat mixed results regarding the effects of worker ownership and decision-making rights on firm productivity. Research focused on worker cooperatives tends to find positive productivity effects. For example, Bartlett et al. 1992 compared the performance of worker cooperatives to private firms using a set of Italian worker cooperatives in light manufacturing matched with similarly sized private firms in the same region and sector. They reported higher value added per worker in the cooperatives relative to the private firm, indicating that the worker cooperatives were more productive," end quote. So I would argue that the best way forward for socialism is through worker cooperatives, and that worker cooperatives are at least as successful, oftentimes more so than the traditional capitalist firm. And for this reason, I would argue that socialism would better benefit the majority of people, allowing them to live their lives in a more free and fair manner, and allowing them to actually receive a larger portion of the benefits their labor generates. Is that not what we all want? Do we not all want to profit equitably from the labor that we provide to the economy? I would argue socialism is the best way forward for that. And I will yield the remainder of our time to our moderator.
Thanks very much, Leo. We will kick it over to our capitalist team now. So, CJ and John, the floor is all yours.
CJ, do you want to go first or you want me to?
Either way, I don't care. I'll go first if you want.
Tell you what, I have a relatively short one. I'll be impromptu, and
For sure.
We'll get on that. All right, so wow, those two opening statements, amazing. That'll be a lot of stuff we got to cover in the discussion. Everything I just listened to is either a bunch of standard talking points that don't go beyond the surface level, or what we just listened to from Leo. Wow, we're gonna have to dive into that in great detail because you didn't really talk about socialism. I'm pretty sure that worker cooperatives already exist in capitalist society, so I'm not really sure where your point was on that. But honestly, where to begin, ladies and gentlemen? This was a last-minute fill-in pinch hit for the one and only Smokey Saint, and obviously 45 minutes is not a bunch of time to prepare, but as they say, you got to come up with something and rise to the occasion. But honestly, how much time is actually needed to debate a subject that is, wow, almost as naive as my opponent's apparent worldviews, and that is the calamity of socialism. The immortal economist Thomas Sowell neatly summed up the failed political and economic dumpster fire when he said, Socialism in general has a record of failure so blatant, only an intellectual could ignore or evade it. Or in the case of my opponents, they want to claim there just hasn't been enough time to prove its success. Let's rewind. In that line with that, let's rewind to the 1830s and hear the words of the immortal Alexis de Tocqueville. Democracy and socialism have nothing in common but one word, and we just heard this word a lot from Leo: equality. But notice the difference. While democracy seeks equality and liberty, socialism seeks equality in restraint and servitude. Of course, it seems that many people in modern society become brainwashed fools and will attempt to argue semantics and some crazy hybrid version as if this hasn't already been attempted, or dismiss the inevitable outcome of an overbearing government control of the means of production and its ultimate destruction of innovation. No, they will claim it's for the good, and democratic socialism or market socialism in this context is a fine wine that will just get better with age. It is ironic, of course, that this foolishness has been pointed out for well over a century, and I think one of the best summations of all of this and the irony of the things that are socialism was said by Ayn Rand of Atlas Shrugged. Quote, "There is no difference between communism and socialism, except in the means of achieving the same ultimate end. Communism proposes to enslave men by force, socialism by vote. It is merely the difference between murder and suicide." End quote. I find it telling that generally the most adamant proponents of socialism fall into two specific camps. Either those who stand to gain from preventing competition, in this context, a Jeff Bezos, or those who have never done anything to be competed against. On one side, you have these cunning Machiavellian types that are taking advantage of the gullible and the desperate. And on the other, those who wish to just be handed survival at the cost of freedom and the potential to gain true wealth and true ultimate freedom. And, I would say that in the last 100 years, few men have faced this truth in a more profound way than the one and only Winston Churchill, and he defined it very, very well. Quote, "Socialism is the philosophy of failure, the creed of ignorance, and the gospel of envy. Its inherent virtue is the equal sharing of misery." But the modern socialists say, we're having it all around us: healthcare and roads, police, food stamps, unemployment. The list goes on and on of all the supposed different things that are great benefits of socialism. And yes, we do witness those things, and we watch the politicians kick the can down the road to avoid paying for them. We watch inflation slowly rise, and the day in which these fantasies come true, or come due, not come true, inches closer by the day. In many countries, this moment of truth has already arrived, and suddenly those things magically vanished. The defaults caused skyrocketing inflation, and now they are eating garbage to survive, not figuratively, literally. We're talking about increase in insulin costs, and I look forward to going down the healthcare debate because there's so many different aspects of that. But all of this should really surprise nobody, for it's always been the outcome of the socialist fairy tale. And to summarize my whole point here, this was very eloquently stated by the Iron Lady herself, Margaret Thatcher. Quote, "The problem with socialism is that you eventually run out of other people's money." And I think that as we go through this debate, you will see that the points that were made by these immortal characters of fame and wisdom over the last 200 years will become more and more apparent as we go back and forth with the talking points of our opponents. And I yield to my partner, CJ.
All righty. So, thank everybody, obviously, for being here with us today. This is obviously going to be hopefully a fun conversation, though I guess it's going to be a little bit quicker than anticipated, but that's certainly all right. So I want to just get into some of the basics of my points. So I don't want to obviously respond to anything said by Leo or Stephen quite yet, just because that will come during the back and forth. I just want to kind of make my own case here for a capitalistic system and or against a socialistic system. So first and foremost, what do I mean by capitalism? I personally tend to be free market capitalist, or laissez-faire as people like to call it. But that is not necessarily what capitalism is. Capitalism simply suggests that the means of production, exchange, and distribution are owned privately and used for profit and gain. I would quickly point out that on that definition alone, capitalism is in fact just the way that markets naturally function if one does not have an outside source trying to mess with them. In fact, the very nature of the term free market implies that if you let the market be free, it will be capitalist. Capitalism, therefore, is actually not an invention of any one philosopher, but is just simply the way that economies have worked throughout time. Think of the trade and barter system. The trade and barter system, I have a certain product. I want to exchange this product for some other product. This product belongs to me, and I am allowed to do so and exchange this product for some sort of a capital gain. We do so, and there you go. That's essentially the basics of capitalism. Now, of course, this has been thought of much deeper, and we have people like Adam Smith and John Locke and all these other guys who have actually thought much deeper onto like economic policies, the invisible hand and things like that, things that, cave people would have no concept of. But the basic tenet of capitalism is, hey, this is my stuff. I'm using my stuff to get some kind of gain. I want some of your stuff. Let's trade for it, right? And this is just the way that economies have functioned since the dawn of time. It's the foundation on which any functioning economy is built. When we have a system of full-fledged and well-worked-out capitalism, as we've had here in the United States and in Britain and in other countries across the globe in the last couple hundred years, we see an unbelievable level of economic prosperity, not only for the ultra wealthy, getting people to, multiple people to the billionaire level, despite the fact that that was something that was once unheard of, but also indeed for the quote unquote peasants like myself, who would be considered one of the lowest class in the United States and yet still get 3-course meals just about every single day. I have it in my own apartment. I am even able to have Wi-Fi, and am having a debate with you guys here today on Wi-Fi that I pay for by myself with nobody else contributing to my help, right? That is an achievement of capitalism in the modern world. Technological advancements and booms are an achievement, at least the ones that we've seen recently in the last couple hundred years in the Industrial Revolution and Cyber Revolution, right? These were results of capitalism, getting cars in everybody's home, making sure everybody had a microwave, giving everybody all these great and wonderful things that we just basically take for granted today. These were all results of capitalism. And what we see, therefore, is a long history, not only of capitalism being essentially the base foundation on which all economies are based, the free market at least, right, being the base foundation on which all economies are based, at least if they're successful. But on top of that, a very, very high rate of success with free market capitalist systems, particularly in our own country and in countries that we tend to be associated with abroad, like Britain and so on, right? On the flip side of that, there is not a solid track record for socialism. Socialism, if you're just going to define it simplistically, like I defined capitalism simplistically, would be common ownership of the means of production, exchange, and distribution. Now, what exactly that means can, of course, differentiate, or can be differentiated, rather, vary, as the word I'd be looking for, from socialist to socialist. It can be in the form of state ownership, as a lot of Stalinists and people like that would suggest. It can also be in the form of a level of more democratic, like the workers' co-ops that we saw in Leophilius's examples, right? The thing is, though, when we have these kinds of economies that are planned from the top down, or that economies that have some level of control in the common people, right, rather than in the individual people who are trying to actually get some level of economic gain, we see consistent failure all throughout the world, right? Whether it's the hardcore versions of communism that we've seen in Stalinist Russia, or Mao Zedong's China, or Pol Pot's Cambodia, and so on and so forth, or lighter forms of communism that have, of socialism, that have been seen in other countries like Venezuela and Cuba and places like that, where it wasn't these necessarily extremely dictatorial systems, although it kind of depends with Cuba. It really depends on the era of Cuban history. Venezuela is a better example of what I was just discussing. And it literally is failure without failure, if you know what I'm saying, right? There's not a single example, in other words, of economies where we do actually have long-term success from socialistic societies. The best we get when we're actually asked, when we ask our opponents to provide examples like this, and we'll of course see if they provide a different one today, is typically Nordic countries. But Nordic countries are very clear that they are not actually socialistic. If anything, they might actually represent a form of social democracy, but even that is highly disputable. And this, of course, comes from their own lips, not from mine, or some other right-wing talking point. In fact, I noticed Leophilius just lifted his thumb up, so at least on that, we know the sides agree. So my question then to the people would be this: if we have a system that not only is natural for markets to be in, but also has a long history of success, and we are putting that system up against another system that has no history of success, long term at least, what in the world would convince you to ditch the one and go with the other? The old quote is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I would say that that in a nutshell is why I am a free market capitalist. It's not broken. We'll obviously get to the whole capitalism has failed thing in the back and forth, but it is a system that has worked to the nth extent. It has given us absolutely fantastic luxuries, things like chocolate bars and Xboxes, and even absolutely fantastic drugs with which we save lives, right? And with that, I would yield my time.
Thank you very much from CJ and Maddox. We are going to jump into the open conversation portion. So we're going to go easygoing at first. As long as it doesn't go off the rails, we'll let it keep going that way. But if it gets too interrupty, we will actually jump in and constrain it to 2 to 3 minute intervals. So, gentlemen, thanks so much. The floor is all yours.
Leo, you look
Leo,
like you're talking, but I can't hear you.
Thank you for that. My mic arm was down.
Absolutely.
Three really quick points to kick us off here. Maddox defined. I would argue that CJ had a more accurate definition of socialism, common ownership of the means production. Maddox was just off. We were just straightforwardly wrong. Socialism is the socioeconomic ideology.
I didn't define socialism.
I haven't finished.
So
I haven't finished.
You're just making accusations.
I promise we'll come right back to
You said
Maddox.
it was government. You said it was government control over the economy. That's not socialism. That's statism. Socialism is the socioeconomic ideology in which the means of production, distribution, and exchange are socially owned and democratically controlled by the working class. Socialism, by its definition, is democratic. Statism is whereby the state has substantial centralized control over social and economic affairs. So the minute the state has substantial control over the economy, you are no longer talking about socialism. You're talking about statism. I did hear that CJ also mentioned Adam Smith. I did want to mention that Adam Smith, and I believe this quote that I'm going to give is from The Wealth of Nations, would have disagreed with laissez-faire economics. He states, quote, "But these exertions of natural liberty of a few individuals, which might endanger the security of the whole society, are and ought to be restrained by laws of all governments, of the most free as well as of the most despotic," end quote. And the final point that I wanted to make was where CJ was talking about free markets. If we go back to places to times where like feudalism or even before that, markets weren't really free in the sense that we talk about free markets today. And just to add on to that, market socialism still preserves the market forces and the market incentives that we see. Mercantilism, for example, which is what capitalism sprouted out of, was actually a bit statist. Many of the monarchic states that existed under mercantilism imposed tariffs. They promoted trade. There was a lot of imperialism and colonialism there. So I would argue that for the most part, starting out, most economies really wouldn't have been free. But I would also argue that in particularly, and I'm going to wrap up with this, particularly the version of socialism that me and Steve are defending, free markets do exist.
All right, let's give plenty of time. It sounds like Maddox has something to say first, and then we'll give it to, we'll give Maddox a chance first, and then maybe we'll go over to Rib as well. Go ahead, Maddox.
Well, the literal definition from Oxford is it's a political and economic theory of social organization, which advocates that the means of production, distribution, and exchange should be owned or regulated by the community as a whole. Okay, so
yeah, that's literally what I said.
Political. Okay, so
Yes.
A political and economic theory. Okay, so
what do you think the socio part and socioeconomic means?
Okay, so you literally stated that I was incorrect by making the assertion that there's government control in all socialist economies. It literally doesn't work without government influence and control of the means of production. Like in every single instance that it's ever existed and actually been applied, there has been government control of the means of production.
And I would point out too, on top of that, you say that it by its nature, it's democratic, but that's not actually true. I mean, just look at the way that a public park, for example, is actually maintained. It's maintained by a system of governance that we could obviously have democratically elected. In fact, in our country, we do, but that's not a necessity. They're public, meaning commonly owned, meaning we all get to use them. but a state does maintain them, right? So there by no means does having common ownership or common access to something mean that it's democratic by its nature.
I mean, case in point, in the United Kingdom, for example, when they implemented socialism post World War II, they literally nationalized industry.
Yeah,
I was growing up. I was living in England when they finally decided to privatize like BP, British Telecommunication, and a variety of other things because they were failing so miserably. And it's why I find it so interesting. But now that I'm back here in the States, when I listen to people,
we wrap up this point quick, and then we'll kick it back.
Talk about these things from a idealistic. Hey, if it was like this, it would be great perspective. When you actually look on a global level, that has never been the outcome, ever.
Well, socialism hasn't ever actually been implemented.
Well, didn't I predict he was going to say that in my opening statement?
Yeah, it's because it's true. And to CJ's point, like public parks aren't really analogous to socialism, at least not the socialism that me and Stephen are defending, which is market socialism.
Well, and to be fair, like that's fine that you can have a specific version of socialism, but the whole reason you even have to have a specific version of socialism in the first place to defend, to distance yourselves from others, is because you obviously recognize that common ownership can absolutely imply state ownership, and that's what it's usually implied. Virtually every time common ownership has been a thing, it's been state. And the example of public parks is a perfect example of that. The state owns that land. We might have a democratic system of electing those state officials, but the state does own that land. The state, for example, also maintains our public education, right? That's what we mean by public or common or things of that nature, virtually always. Now, it doesn't have to be that way. And I understand that you might actually want to distance yourself from something that agrees with that. That's perfectly fine. Well, we can address that. But all socialistic examples we've actually seen have been an attempt to have it regulated at the state. And I would argue that if you don't have any examples in the real world of what you're saying, at least on a national level, that's successful, then it is all theoretical and kind of pipe dreaming at this point.
We do
2 points there.
Let's give both Leo and Cider several minutes because there are a lot of points to cover.
So first thing is, once the state has taken control over the means of production, it's just not socialism anymore. Like if you just Google the definition of statism, you'll see it's when the state has substantial centralized control over social and economic affairs. So it just wouldn't be socialism anymore. In our governance, yes, I would argue that that's public ownership. I wouldn't really argue that it's very democratic, even within a democratic system, but it's at least right now the best that we've got. What was the other point that I want? Oh yeah. When we look around the world, socialism really hasn't ever been implemented really in any form because, again, governments owning the economy is just statism, not socialism. What we have seen, though, with what I'm defending and what Stephen would defend is market socialism. And if I remember correctly, I cited 4 academic sources showing the success of worker cooperatives from the lumber companies in the Pacific Northwest to companies in Italy. Some of those papers will cite companies in Vietnam. From all over the world, worker cooperatives are successful. So I would argue that yes, there's a lot of success in worker cooperatives. All of the academic data seems to indicate that, well, they will still have some problems, that they are just as oftentimes more so successful, especially in terms of their efficiency, their productivity, and especially with regards to the profits that they are capable of returning collectively to the workers than traditional business firms. If Stephen wants to add anything, he is free.
Yeah, so I took down several notes from both openings. The kind of biggest one, just because I can kind of see that this is kind of moving very, very swiftly on. It's at a very brisk pace. CJ, you had said the drugs that's the invention of new drugs and this sort of thing. Yeah, they're paid for by the taxpayers, and then the pharmaceutical companies come and buy up the patents for them, which they then have for about 12 years, which they can charge whatever the fuck they want for them. And then they can, only after 12 years can they bring out a regular version of that drug that they don't own, so that the like poorer people in the society can get access to that drug. So it's already paid for by taxpayers, and then so we're taxed well, I say we, obviously I'm not literally included because I'm in Ireland, but you guys are taxed. You guys are paying tax. Your tax dollars are going to the manufacturer of these drugs, which are then bought up by the insurance companies, which then they charge whatever they want. So you're paying even more. So you're paying twice for the drug that you helped to create.
Develop,
because So the last thing that I'll say, and then I'll kind of pass it over for a little while anyway, is Maddox, you had said that you were looking forward to a healthcare debate. Yeah, you won't be looking forward to it for very long, son.
Well, you talk a big game, bro. Let's roll. Okay, so first off,
I'm not exactly unique in that aspect either now, am I?
Yeah, okay. So anyway, since you live in the wrong country for this. So anyway, Leo, I'm not really understanding what you are arguing in relation to employee-owned businesses. Like, what do you think sweat equity is? And what do you think entrepreneurship is? What do you think startups are doing where they give equity positions to the employees that get vested over periods of time, and they have the opportunity for massive wealth creation through IPOs or acquisitions? Like, what do you think that is? Like, that's not socialism that you're describing. You're talking about already existing mechanisms of capitalism to enable wealth generation and for the expansion and growth of companies. Like,
and I would actually add on that, like, you brought up these examples of worker co-ops. All of these worker co-ops exist in capitalist nations.
Like, what do you think Southwest Airlines is?
Top down.
Southwest Airlines is literally a employee-owned major player.
Oh, here we go. Employee-owned often doesn't mean anything.
Okay, hang on. So now, in the context of publicly owned companies, you're talking about voting rights and things of that nature. Okay, what the hell 100%. Do you think is happening in? What do you think is the point of having voting shares in a legal entity? Like, that's the entire point. Now, is there corruption that's being executed very often, especially in the SEC route, of people being able to buy off government regulators and the influence of political bureaucrats into private industry, enabling the continuation of those rich people taking advantage of their positions? I agree with you 100% on that. But that's crony capitalism, and that is overreach by government into the private sector, which is enabling a lot of these things that you guys are talking about to be successfully implemented and perpetuated. Like, if anybody's ever been an entrepreneur, and I have been, I both invested in companies and been a sweat equity employee, and I built my own firm. And I worked my freaking ass off. I gave equity positions to employees that were doing great work and gave them shares of profits. Like, I've been there, done that. And I don't understand how you think that is remotely a socialist position when that is the literal epitome of what happens in free market capitalism.
That's not what I'm arguing for. That's why. So you mentioned.
Then what are you arguing for then? Because you're talking about employee-owned profit sharing. Like, what the hell is that?
You let me explain it. I can. Profit sharing is not the same thing as democratized control over a firm. Those are completely different ideas.
Okay.
Just because
that's being happening in many industries.
Can I respond?
Let's give him a chance to respond. I promise we'll come back.
There are numerous companies that allow some of their employees to own shares. That doesn't give them the ability to dictate how that company collectively dictate how that company is operating.
If they have voting rights, it does.
Doesn't. Well, they don't.
Yes, they do. Many entities do, man.
Publics offer stock options to their employees, but their employees don't get a vote on things because they don't own enough shares to do it. So no, that's just wrong. Market socialism.
That's that corporate structure.
Yes,
but there's other corporate structures that do enable voting rights.
Am I going to be able to respond?
Your naivete and ignorance of basic business is astounding.
That was only the first one. Leo, and then I promise we'll come back to the capitalist side.
Second point: worker cooperatives can exist under any system. I've never denied that. They could exist under a fascist system if you wanted them to. However, when all firms are worker cooperatives and thereby democratized, the entire economy is democratized, that is what socialism is. So that is what I'm advocating for, the slow movement to all firms in an economy being worker cooperatives, which would be democratized control over the economy.
So who's going to enforce the necessity of every single private business being in that model? Who's going to make that happen?
Oh, I would assume the government, but the government has a hand in literally any
So you're gonna say that the government is going to
the argument that there can't be a system that doesn't have some authority that maintains that system is just absurd.
So are you arguing that the bylaws? Are you suggesting that the bylaws of every individual
some authority is going to have to maintain that system?
Are you suggesting that the bylaws of every single private entity should be governed by politicians and bureaucracy? Is that what you're saying?
They wouldn't be governed by politicians.
What the hell do you think? Who's going to come up with the bylaws? Are they going to customize them for every single industry?
You mean like they do now?
No, you think that right now bureaucrats write the bylaws for the day-to-day operation of business? Are you suggesting that?
In some instances, yeah, they do. So what would be done is
some public-private hybrids. I'm talking about private industry.
Cut off.
We're going to, and I'm going to give you a chance to respond, so Leo. Hold on a second. I'm going to give Leo a chance to respond, and then we do have to slow this just a bit down because it is rocky, but we also eventually have to work our way over to Steven and CJ. So go ahead, Leo.
So I'm not saying that a company with 4 people working at it needs to be a worker co-op. It pretty much already is. You have 4 people working there. They're all going to be talking with each other on what they want to do. But when you have 400 people working for you, you should probably be a worker cooperative. That way, all of the employees at the firm have the ability to engage in the day-to-day operations and management of that firm. So what I'm saying is that there needs to be some measured cutoff at which we say, past this point, you are going to become a worker cooperative. The idea that utilizing some authority to maintain that system is wrong would be an argument against capitalism, because there is a system of authority that maintains that system. You can't have a system without some authority that maintains the system. It's been that way since there's been humans on the planet. Some authority has maintained the system that currently exists.
There's a couple things I would have to say on that, actually. First and foremost, and this actually kind of gets us into, I think, one of the key differences in what a
before we go into that, I just want to be sure that Steven gets to go right after you, CJ, because we haven't heard from Steven in a while.
Okay. So, when we're talking about things like capitalism versus socialism, right? And I pointed out how it's the difference really lies in, are you privately owning the means of production and exchange, or are you commonly owning the means of production and exchange? If you look at the Oxford definition that was actually already provided by Maddox, right? And I have to stress this because, we keep saying this, if it's state controlled, by definition, it's not socialism. That's just not true. The community as a whole has almost always been the state. That's just a fact, right? That is the way that it has been maintained throughout the dawn of time. And in fact, that's usually what we have considered a state to be. So no, by no means is socialism inherently something that is democratic. Being controlled by the community as a whole and being controlled by the state can sometimes be one and the same thing. Very often are one and the same thing. In fact, there are numerous people who would consider them to be literally saying the same thing with different words. The other thing that I would point out when it comes to these things, right, is you say, well, there should be a certain amount of state control, and there's always going to be some level of state enforcement because that's just the nature of how systems are going to work. But actually, in a free market capitalist society, the exact opposite is true. The whole point of free market capitalism is to say, no, we're actually going to let the state, or leave the state completely out of it, or at least as out of it as we possibly can, and get the economy itself to kind of run itself, the market to run itself. That's the whole point of having a free market. Again, just look at the name. It's a free market, a market which is free. If you start adding state controls, and it doesn't really matter what those states are, whether that's actually regulation or some level of subsidy or something like that, you're no longer talking about free market capitalism, right? You could be talking about some form of capitalism, just like you can be talking about some form of socialism. But if we're talking about a free market, then no, actually, there is no system that is in place to force it to happen. If you want to have a worker co-op in a free market capitalist society, you absolutely can.
Let's kick it over to Steven. Thanks so much.
So it was something that LPP said at the end of the last address towards me. You said it under your breath, but I heard it. You said that you see, it's kind of funny because you said this in the last couple of debates that I had with you as well. You keep talking about the fact that I'm from Ireland. Dude, the motion of the debate is not socialism versus capitalism in Ireland. It's not socialism versus capitalism in the US. It's socialism versus capitalism. So it doesn't matter what fucking country I'm from.
Hey, bro, I was referring to United States healthcare.
I'm sorry, I'm talking. I'm talking. Have your listening ears on, please. Have your listening ears on, please. Listening ears on, please.
What we are going to do is we're going to give maybe a couple of minutes to Stephen, and then I promise we'll kick it right back over to the socialist or capitalist side. So go ahead, Stephen. 2 minutes is yours.
Thank you, James. I was almost actually wrapped up. It doesn't matter what country I'm from. I'm still more than capable of arguing this point because I believe that socialism is the better way to operate a society, especially over capitalism. Now, you had said that you were looking forward to having a healthcare debate, John. Let's go.
Okay, cool. Let's do that, bro.
Mm-hmm.
So, and by the way, what I was talking about in terms of you being in the wrong country is I was specifically referring to your assertions about healthcare in the United States. So, do I think that healthcare in the United States is all fine and hunky-dory? Oh, absolutely not. Man, is that kind of surprise you that I don't actually think that our healthcare system is perfect? I absolutely do not. However, I happen to know a few of the reasons why our healthcare system has collapsed in terms of its efficiency and why the cost has been skyrocketing. And it's all due to over-regulation by people who are pushing socialist policies. So, for example, case in point, Stephen, are you aware, and Leo, are you guys aware of the artificial monopoly lines that have been created around all 50 states?
Let's just say I'm not. And
okay, so you don't understand, you don't know what that means in the United States, eh?
I said, let's just say I'm not. You really need to put your listening ears on if you're having a debate.
Okay, so would you agree or disagree that it's going to result in skyrocketing costs if you're able to maintain an artificial monopoly?
Would it result in skyrocketing costs if you're able to maintain an artificial monopoly? Is that what you said?
That's what I said.
No.
So monopolies haven't always resulted in increased costs when there's no competition.
Sorry, I misunderstood you. Yes, sorry.
Okay, cool.
I misunderstood you.
Are you aware of the fact that the United States Congress, at the behest of lobbying, created artificial lines around each state of the United States and created new regulations in which, unlike every other possible type of insurance in the United States, you are not allowed to buy it across state lines. There's a few minor exceptions.
Lobbying by who?
It's federal law. Now,
but who lobbied for it? The insurance companies that are profiting from it? It's interesting.
Crony capitalism is what I talked about.
Capitalism is inherently crony.
Okay, but who is being able to enforce the authority of it? It's the government regulators, and it's people pushing. By the way, the people pushing for this stuff on the government side were the left, not the right, ironically. But
no, they weren't.
Leo, did you even know what I was talking about?
Yes.
Did you even know what I was talking about in terms of the artificial monopoly lines?
I've heard of that term. I don't know.
Okay. So you kind of heard of it, but you didn't really know who would push it. Okay, that's awesome. Now, in the context of the artificial monopolies, so if you actually go and look, and I've actually researched this, if you actually go and look, you'll find that almost every state in the United States has one entity that controls 80 to 95% of the market share in that individual economy.
Yeah.
That violates the Sherman antitrust laws and the variety of other regulations, but because it's being done artificially inside of a state, individual state versus on the national level, they're being able to circumvent it as a result of regulatory influence by people who are being bought and paid for as they try to control government versus what if those rules were removed from the equation and the free market was allowed to take over again. Let's think about this in relation to every other type of insurance. Why is it, from an actuarial perspective, I can get greater coverage with a higher probability of needing to have a payout on all sorts of other types of insurance, and yet it costs me dramatically less? Why is that? Oh, wait, we have artificially created monopolies as the result of a artificial restriction of the free market by that quote unquote authority. Okay,
Who creates the monopolies? The insurance companies, again, that are operating on a profit base.
Oh my God, dude.
Hang on, hold on though. That's a straw man though. That has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not it's capitalistic. In fact,
it's literally capitalistic.
No, that is
Leo
not.
doesn't understand
it's not
basic
true.
economics.
Because
This is
we've been
hilarious.
arguing here
Probably
for free market
understand
this
more than
entire time.
you.
If a market is free, again, if you are starting to get the government involved, it doesn't matter if the corporations are the people who are getting the government involved. If the government is getting involved, the market is no longer free. That is simply just by definition, right? And Leo, I just want to say you've been doing like a pretty solid job arguing this honestly. Please don't start being dishonest.
I actually
like
haven't,
that is,
but
like,
sure, go off.
No, it's not me going off. I'm saying straight up that is a dishonest form of argumentation, and you know it. You are fully aware of it. All right, you know for a fact that we've been sitting here this whole time because you've been listening to us. We've been sitting here this whole time arguing for a free market, not lobbyists going in and getting the state involved on behalf of corporations.
Well, yeah, but why do they do that? Is it to increase their profits? Why do they want?
It doesn't matter. That's irrelevant.
But wait, hold on. It doesn't matter. What system allows them? What system gives them the incentive? What system gives them the incentive to focus solely on increasing the profits?
Actually, any market system would. So that would include yours.
Not
in a social market, you would still have profit incentive.
No, it wouldn't.
Yes, you would. That's the whole point of maintaining a market.
There's a difference between a profit incentive and maximizing profits to the benefit of shareholders and executives, which is what capitalism is.
Okay, hang on. So if you have a employee-owned co-op, if you have a co-op, are you not going, as the employee-owned entity, are you not going to want to maximize the profit for all of your employees?
Exactly.
Maximize
Dude, what world do you live in, bro?
Not necessarily.
So you don't want to be profitable for your employees?
Well, there's a difference between being profitable and maximizing profits, but you said you knew more than me on economics.
So, whoa, hang on. So in terms of maximizing profits, in a free market, there's a reason you have a maximum amount of profit you can make. It's because how much people are willing to pay for your product or service. This is a basic principle of economics, okay? So you want to maximize profits in order to grow, to hire more people.
Wait, you don't know
to be innovative. No, hang on. Have you ever run a business?
What does that have to do with anything?
It's a very direct question. Have you ever run a business?
Hold on. The only people that can know about economics.
No, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking if you have.
Why does it matter?
It's a very direct question. Have you, or yes or no?
But I'm asking what relevance.
Have you ever looked at your P&L and tried to figure out, do I want to hire more people? How many? Okay. And by the way, sidebar, and this whole thing you guys are talking about in terms of like, if you reach a certain point, then you're no longer going to be able to be a private entity in the traditional format. You're going to have to do this. Okay. Obamacare as a prime example. At that time, leading up to that stuff, my company was shit. I'm going to use a point of your whole like, let's put a peg on stuff. So, as a point, my company was skyrocketing at the time. If we hit, we were at 29 employees. When we hit 30, all sorts of Obamacare regulations were going to kick in. If you get to 50, there was a whole new set. My business partner and I sat down and we thought about it for a long time. We looked at all the math, how much we would have to increase our profit in order to be able to pay for all the additional costs, the liabilities that we're now going to be. We weren't going to be susceptible under 29 employees or under 30 employees. Once we hit that, there was a whole new level of liabilities that we now kicked in that we didn't have the ability to have any control over. So what did we do? We decided, instead of trying to grow for scale and to have our profits be based on volume versus net value per customer, we made the pivot. Guess what happened? We actually said, let's keep the very best of our team, the highest caliber of our employees and the best talent. And then we're going to minimize, we're actually going to reduce the size of our company and only go after very, very high dollar customers. Because all of a sudden, it was no longer going to be to my benefit personally and as a business and for my employees to be able to try and continue to scale in that manner. What the hell do you think is going to happen with private industry and private businesses if it's like, oh, hey, business owner, you've been busting your ass to get to this point, but if you keep growing any more, you're going to have to give up the equity that you've been working your ass off and no longer be able to control over what you've dedicated your life to. That is a idyllic fantasy land that doesn't work. And in every institution,
except it does. And I cited 4 academic sources showing its success. Do you want me to go over them again?
I'll just jump in just very, very quickly.
You don't even know what you're talking about. Wow. Amazing.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So
the guy
I love that the last. Sorry, Leo. Just 1 sec.
Go ahead.
I love that the last kind of time that I talked, it was the start of a healthcare debate. We didn't hear a single argument against socialized healthcare system, and now you're arguing with Leo about something entirely different. Do you have an argument against the socialized healthcare system, Maddox? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Can you present it? Because you didn't the last time.
Well, I mean, when you look at what is happening in the UK is an example with National Health. They closed 30%
Wait,
of their
what?
hospitals.
That system is greatly successful.
Really? They closed 30% of their hospitals 2 years ago.
Okay, that's a result of the government.
And the National Health.
But
the National Health is bankrupted.
Tell them why.
Go Google
Sabotage.
it. Go Google it. The head of the healthcare ministry.
Why would I Google it when I could talk to people that live in fucking England, dude?
Okay. Oh, really? Okay. Did they? Did the doctors? Did the doctors in the United Kingdom go on strike? Yes or no? Yes, they did. So. Okay,
John.
If you don't
tell
know this,
them why.
you can Google it.
Tell the live chat why that happened.
Pay was one of the major issues. The lack of technology, that they were being overworked and underpaid. Hello, what's the average salary of a doctor in the United Kingdom?
Okay, so I asked you to tell the live chat why, and instead of telling them why, you lie to them.
I'm lying to them? How about you Google it right now?
But yeah, because that's not the fucking reason why. So that's why you lie.
So you just called me a liar. Google it and prove that I'm a liar.
Why would we go to Google when we can talk to people that live in the country that deal with the healthcare system?
So there's public statements from the ministry, from the government on in line with these facts. So
now we trust the government.
So the National Health that is run, the socialist government-run healthcare organization that says they're bankrupt. You're claiming that when this is like the surgeon. This is like the socialist.
He did.
You don't
did
think
you just say that? What?
The National Health.
the
National Healthcare.
Nation.
Hold on, we're talking about healthcare, aren't we? Are we talking about healthcare? Yes or no?
We're talking about healthcare, but that doesn't mean that England is a fucking socialist country, you donkey.
Are you saying that you were talking about healthcare, correct? You said socialist healthcare, did you not?
I said a socialized healthcare system.
Hang on. So you don't think that the national healthcare system in the United Kingdom is a socialist healthcare system?
I didn't say that, dude.
Okay,
I said
then what are you laughing
England
about?
Wasn't a socialized healthcare.
Are you suggesting the NHS is not socialist healthcare?
I said that England was not a socialist country.
No. We talked about socialist healthcare. Is it socialist healthcare? That's what we were talking about. Were we not talking about healthcare? Yes or no?
Wait, hold on. Do all of the doctors own the hospitals that they work at?
No, we're talking about socialist healthcare.
Okay, then it's not socialist, is it? Yeah. If the people working in the
changing the topic
don't
constantly. Talk to the socialized healthcare system.
Name a healthcare system that's not government run.
Hang on.
A socialist country.
The United States healthcare system.
We're not a socialist healthcare system, are we?
No, there is no socialist healthcare system.
Hang on, dude.
What world do you guys live in?
You said
the real world.
So, give you an example of a socialized healthcare system.
Are you suggesting
I'm sorry. Did the middle of my sentence
that the United Kingdom would not consider NHS
listening ears?
Socialist healthcare.
All right,
listening ears, Maddox.
What we're going to do is we are going to hear from CJ because he has been gone for several minutes. So. 10 minutes. So, CJ, we'll give you a chance to jump in if you know where the conversation is, and then we are going to kick it back over to the socialists after that. So, CJ, the floor is all yours. Glad you're back.
Well, so, I mean, my understanding of where the conversation got is a little disjointed just because of the drop there. So I do apologize for that. But I guess one thing that I would just want to suggest, because, so we have I know you guys were going back and forth on healthcare. So the numbers of, what's going on in the British healthcare system is not something I'm particularly familiar with, but I do know some different comparisons of the government operating something here in the United States versus companies operating something privately here in the United States. And those tend to virtually always be more beneficial on the side of private. For example, private education is well known to be much better than public education. FedEx is something that people use well before they're going to use the postal service, and so on and so forth. So I don't understand why we would expect it. I mean, Uber versus public transportation, right? I don't know why we would expect it to be different in a situation where the government now controls healthcare. And by the way, I would point out too that I definitely do not want the government to have control over healthcare because frankly, I don't trust people, right? There has been plenty of people all throughout the Twitter sphere, some of them being elected officials who have said very plainly that in their care, certain folks would be dead because they don't like them. And that is a fear, not just from like left wing or right wing or anything like that. That's human nature. People are evil. And as a result, I do not actually want the government to have control over my healthcare and to have the potentiality to say anything about whether or not they think I should or should not have healthcare because of what I may or may not believe or do with my private time. I kind of like the incentive of some guy being like, okay, well, it doesn't really matter what I feel about this guy. He gives me money, and so therefore I'm going to take care of him. It makes more sense to me. You know what I mean? It gives me a little bit more faith in the system, shall we say?
Well, can I ask you a quick question? I wanted to ask it earlier, but you had, I don't know if you like went like to the bathroom or something, but and this is a little bit off topic. I just really quickly. So the definition that both you and Maddox cited for socialism comes from not the Oxford English Dictionary, but from Oxford Languages, which is not the same thing as the Oxford English Dictionary. And from the same source, this is the definition of statism: a political system in which the state has substantial centralized control over social and economic affairs. Are you arguing that that is a form of socialism?
Most socialism that has actually been tried is absolutely statist.
Okay, so then you would agree that it is statism, not socialism.
Those two are not necessarily contradictory.
They literally are. They literally are.
No, they are not.
They literally are, and this is why.
They literally aren't, though.
One, the state owns the means of production. In the other, that is democratized amongst the workers.
You did not know the definition that we shared here that you just said was a legit definition is not democratized.
Well, I didn't
common
actually
ownership.
it was
okay. Encyclopedia Britannica.
I didn't actually
social and economic doctrine that calls for public
can I respond,
rather
please?
than private ownership or control of property and national resources.
Yeah, these are not like actual sources. Like if you want
Encyclopedia Britannica is not a source
on socialism.
Get the hell out of here!
I've read numerous things from them on advanced theoretical physics, and they get the definition completely fucking wrong. When I look for the definition,
Encyclopedia Britannica is wrong.
I go to the people that actually invented it, like Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, who I'm assuming you don't even fucking know, and probably haven't read a single goddamn syllable of any work done. So if you read Socialism, Utopian and Scientific by Friedrich Engels, you will learn what socialism is. They just get it fucking wrong because they don't know what it means. They're utilizing colloquialized definitions, not the actual one as laid out by the people who invented what the ideology is, who are a source
so going back to national health,
could ever provide.
National health, some from Vox. At the center of the UK system sits the National Health Service. Founded in 1948, the NHS goes beyond single-payer healthcare into true socialized medicine. The government doesn't just pay for services, it also runs hospitals, employs doctors. The system is financed through taxes. Everyone is covered, and supplemental private insurance is rare, unlike in, say, France. I mean, everybody who's actually living in the real world, not this idyllic fantasy land that you're living in, Leo, recognizes that this is what actually happens in the real world when it comes to socialist policies.
Most companies utilize, you mean what happens in the real world is that the vast majority, like literally, if we take the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, which is an organization of the 35 most advanced countries on the planet, one of them does not have a universal healthcare system. Can you tell me what country that is?
Probably us, but what do you think?
Yeah, and every other country has significantly better healthcare outcomes with significantly less money being invested than we do. Why do you think that is?
So a lot of those outcomes.
How many sources do you want on that?
Let's go look at
how many sources do you want?
So
how many sources?
Hang on, are you going to let me respond? So are you actually going to argue that these like third world countries that have socialized medicine, are you actually going to claim that they have higher survival rates for prostate cancer, for breast cancer, for the variety of diseases? Are you actually going to make that argument?
Troglodyte, brainworm infested shit I'm hearing. I literally mentioned the OECD. Why are you mentioning?
Okay, so hang on. Just answer the question. Just answer the question. Do they yes or no?
That's not relevant to what I said.
Just answer the question, yes or no.
Why would I answer it when it's not relevant?
Because I'm about to make it relevant.
I'm about to make it relevant. We're shortly going to go into.
So what you're saying is you're admitting that you're going to.
No, I'm actually going to say let's look at the comparison between the United Kingdom.
Don't seem to get it. So shut up for a second. We're going to go into look at him. So we're going to go into Q&A shortly. I do want to give CJ a chance to respond, and then we'll give Steven a chance to respond. Thank you guys. Appreciate your gusto, to say the least. So no worries, nothing personal, but I do have to just kind of once in a while jump in. So we're going to give it over to CJ quick, and then we're going to give it to Steven quick, and then we do have to go into the Q&A because we do want to let you know, folks, first of all, Maddox is jumping in with like 4 hours of sleep and also has to wake up at an obscene hour tomorrow. And Steven is in Ireland, so he is far ahead of us into the night or early morning.
4 to 3 in the morning.
Thank you. And so we'll go over to CJ and then to Steven, and then we're going to jump into Q&A where I'm sure we'll hear more from Leo and Maddox. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. So I would say, so a couple things. So the first thing I would say is if we want to narrow this down to Marxist socialism, because Marx, unlike what was said here, is not the inventor of socialism. Him and Engels, their Communist Manifesto and Das Kapital are definitely what we base the majority of modern socialist thought off of.
Laid it out.
But for example, Thomas More's Utopia was considered to be an example of socialism.
Which came after.
And the Mazdak from the 5th century was considered to be an example of socialism, so on and so forth. So it isn't actually true that Marxism is an encapsulation of all socialism. If we do want to say that we're actually going to have this argument based off of what Marx's ideals are, well, Marx wouldn't actually consider himself a socialist. He would consider himself to go farther and be a communist. He considered socialism to be a transitionary state where he could get to a point where there was indeed no state and, of course, no cash and things of that nature, which I don't believe is what you're actually arguing for here today. If I'm not mistaken, you do actually believe, A, in the necessity of a state of some kind, and B, in market socialism, and therefore the existence of cash and things of that nature. So I just want to clarify, I mean, you seem to suggest now that, and by the way, I understand your frustration with people not actually listening to people like Marx and stuff like that, but just to be clear, I have actually read both Das Kapital and Communist Manifesto, as well as a lot of his personal writings. I wouldn't call myself an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I do certainly know the man, his philosophies, and what he felt about things. And you don't seem to be arguing from a Marxist perspective. In fact, I was surprised to even hear you bring up Marx, because I thought you would want to kind of retreat away from Marx in this more market socialist way that you're going. So why now would you be wanting to defend, I guess, that position, when that position, his position on socialism, like I said, is as a transitionary state to get to stateless society and cashless society and classless society and so on.
If Stephen is willing to field the question, we haven't heard a lot from Stephen. And so, Stephen, if you're willing to field that question, we'll give you a chance to answer. Otherwise, we do have to go into Q&A shortly.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I would just kind of sum up by just saying that, like, it's come up several times that, and just to kind of address something that CJ said, yeah, I do get frustrated when people don't listen to me, Maddox. But like it's this whole thing, it was started off, it was in the opening that, we were wanting to have a debate on healthcare. It never really happened apart from kind of poking jabs. But you also said that in a country that was run by the NHS, that there was also a private health insurance company. Yeah, if there's private health insurance companies in a system that is meant to be socialized medicine, that's not socialized medicine.
I literally said they weren't there.
I'm sorry, I'm still talking.
I literally said they weren't there.
Look at that, I'm still talking.
Claim I don't listen to you. You literally didn't listen to it.
I'm still talking. This is amazing.
Dude, you're a liar. You're a stone cold, either you're an idiot or you're a liar. Which one is it?
I'm still talking.
And then we are going to jump right into the Q&A. So you got 60 seconds, Stephen. And
thank you so much, James.
Jonathan, I had to, but look at him go. Okay, this is 1 second. This
look at him go.
Okay,
Triggered
go ahead,
little snowflake. Yeah, look, I mean, look, I came here tonight expecting kind of, arguments against socialism, apart from, like what we got was mentions of Venezuela, apart from the fact that you didn't say that it was sanctions by the United States that crippled Venezuela, but that's okay, because I get that you're pushing a narrative. Look, I could go on and I could kind of run out the clock. I'm not going to. The last thing that I will say is that I am superly, and I mean superly, surprised that Maddox didn't have to take a week off so we could fundraise for this debate. You can go to the Q&A, James.
We're going to jump into the Q&A with this first question. Let me just be sure all of you guys are unmuted so you can respond. And so we are starting with Sphincter of Doom. It said,
bro, I'm doing a closing statement. You got me here to come out here for 45 minutes notice? I'm doing a closing statement.
Let's see. Who did we have start?
Everybody just talked
Socialist.
to me.
So I'll humor you, Maddox. We'll give you a short little wrap up to draw the threads together, and then we do have to go into the Q&A.
So Stephen clearly doesn't actually pay attention because he's having to flip his hair too much to expose his ears so he can actually pay attention to what people are actually saying. I literally stated that unlike other countries, the United Kingdom didn't have private insurance. Actually, in the 90s, when Bupa was starting to grow and private insurance was trying to make a stake in the United Kingdom, there was massive government regulation that came into place to block that from actually happening because there was so much delay in the access to healthcare that people were looking for new alternatives and to privatize the healthcare industry in the United Kingdom. They actually got shut down by the government, ironically. But in the context of this overall conversation, both Leo and Stephen, inside of their emotional talking points that they spew out ad nauseum, they clearly didn't actually listen to the points that were being made, and obviously don't live in the real world of like actual application of business principles and building of wealth and creation of opportunity and changing of the status quo. It's quite fascinating, and I hope at some point these children grow up.
Jump into the Q&A.
Can I? Because like everybody got to give a final word, but I can literally make it like 20 seconds,
sure,
if not
why
less.
not?
It's like
Go
brief
ahead.
statement. So socialism and statism aren't the same thing. Marx and Engels definitely laid out what socialism is. There were numerous works after them. Socialism is inherently Marxist, but there are different forms of it. And finally, yeah, I was surprised that we didn't get into more of a debate at healthcare. And I was also surprised that my opponents didn't actually address the whole worker cooperative issue, which isn't an issue, or address any of the academic sources I cited.
Next up, want to say thanks for your questions, folks. We're going to jump right into this. Sphincter of Doom strikes first, saying, worker cooperatives don't scale. The most successful ones require allowing outside investment to grow and remain competitive, i.e. more capitalistic. Capitalism doesn't preclude co-ops.
Well, yeah, I never said that it did. You can have an economy that is entirely market socialist and have outside investments from individuals into worker cooperatives, or other worker cooperatives into worker cooperatives. Like that's, like I said, market socialism is socialist and where the economy is democratically controlled by the workers, but it's still, and this is the key part, it preserves market forces and market incentives.
Gotcha.
You know,
and
they tried this.
We
they tried
must
this in
go to the
Israel
next one.
initially.
We have so many questions, you guys. I hate to do this, but Gurmania says, question for all, is there at least one pro to your opposition's side? Please be clear in your response. And if you're able to, since it's for all four of you, it's kind of like 4 questions, if you're able to do it in the most short and pithy way, because we do have a ton of questions.
I mean, in the sense that conservatives are kind of typically in favor of like a smaller government. Yeah, I mean, I don't like that, you know, the Patriot Act is a thing. I don't like the fact that the government can warrantlessly spy on its citizens. Yeah, I'm trying to keep it short and pithy, James, I promise, so I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you.
I would say, while, you know, I would certainly offer respects to my socialist opponents, I personally don't find any redeeming qualities in socialism as an ideology. I apologize if that's a little harsh, but it's just my opinion.
Gotcha.
I would say that one quality that I would find that would be more beneficial under a capitalist system than a socialist system would be the maximization of profit. So that generally comes to the detriment of the workers through the exploitation of the labor power that they provide to the firm without being equitably benefited from the labor that they are providing.
Gotcha. John?
If you maximize profit, you can pass through more incentive and more income and more opportunity to the employee base. Like,
Gotcha.
That doesn't actually
Thank
happen.
you very much. Next up, Athena, goddess of wisdom in warfare, says, gotta love Leo's crap-eating grin. Nice grin. Next, thanks to your super sticker, double-minded in Coleary 1798 says, respect to Maddox for chipping in at the 11th hour. That's right. So thank you, John, for jumping in last minute on 4 hours of sleep. Operating at best on 50% brain power, 2 cells furiously turning the cogs to keep the machine chugging all along. Oh, I didn't know it was going to be an insult. There you go, John. John. Oh, okay.
It's very painful to listen to these dumbasses who clearly don't comprehend the points.
Next,
the irony. The irony.
Next up, before we, all right, let's do Sphincter of Doom. We must move on. Sphincter of Doom.
So, hang on. So, Leo, I have never claimed to be a quantumologist. So why don't you take that ongoing statement?
Not even a real term.
And I'm aware it's not a real word. It's an insult you keep using, you dumb fuck. Let's go.
All right, order. All right, here we go. This one coming in.
You
from
triggered, Maddox?
You guys,
triggered?
hold on a
Snowflake,
second. We
you
got to go to the
triggered?
next one. Sphincter of Doom says social
I have to make you
ownership.
cry again, bitch boy.
All right, enough.
Nice.
Gentlemen,
Nice, son.
gentlemen.
Nice.
We have Sphincter of Doom says social ownership is by definition by the state, the workers, or a combination of both. Saying socialism is only by workers is simply incorrect.
Well, I would invite them to read Socialism, Utopian, and Scientific by Friedrich Engels, as well as read some works on Marx, because once the government has substantial centralized control over the means of production, utilizing the same source for the definition that CJ and Maddox used, it's now statism, not socialism, and statism and socialism are not synonymous in any way.
Gotcha. Maynard Saves says, no Bobby Dazzlers here except Leophilius. Is that
goddamn right?
Compliment?
If you watch The Curse of Oak Island and you know who Gary Drayton is, you'll know what he means. If you don't, you should be.
I'll try. Brenton Langle, oh boy, Maddox's twin brother in ideology, says chocolate bars with beans picked by child slaves.
Yes! Hey, no, you want to know what though? Hang on. No, I love that. I am so happy you brought that up.
I've only just started.
The question hasn't finished yet. Let him finish.
He says Xbox is made by Chinese workers in SEZs. I should know what that means, I'm sure. Who would rather die than work another day? Go capitalism.
It's all capitalism.
Right. So those aren't actually arguments against capitalism, because capitalism does not require that you have slave labor. In fact, capitalism can very often have no slave labor at all. Right. We obviously have slavery illegal in the United States.
Why does it exist?
Guess what? Here's the key about that. Here's the kicker about that. None of you
wage slaves
don't purchase Nestle chocolate. I don't purchase products made by people who, like, for example, Nike, who make products in soy shops and sweatshops. I don't purchase things from Disney, things of that nature. None of you socialists are out here leaving your money away from Nestle, not giving your money to Disney. So you're all participating in the slave labor when you have the right not to. Every single one of you. Go ahead and lay that blame at your own feet.
30 seconds response. 30 seconds response.
Companies, to the technology companies, to your blessed Colin Kaepernick giving millions and millions to Nike, right? That's on you guys.
All right, we got it. Thank you. I'll give you guys responses. I already shot down Maddox, to be fair. So
okay,
if you shoot down me, it's fine. Sparingly, so I'll owe one to the capitalist side. Go ahead, Stephen.
Okay, so first off, you don't know that I buy Nestle. You don't know that I buy Disney. You're just making assumptions. Secondly, you said that that like you don't have to have child labor, but your partner earlier said that you want that capitalism is about maximizing profit. If you can pay children less, then it kind of is not maybe essential, but definitely a part of it, and it's definitely not a part of socialism, which I'm advocating for.
I'll give the last word to the capitalist.
I'm gonna have to respond to that one. So you morons do not comprehend that in the free market, if you're not paying people because you can't take it, and it's called basic supply and demand. If you have a demand for the talent to be able to produce the product or service in order to maximize your profit, that's how you maximize your profit, is being able to offer the product or service where people are willing to pay for and pay more for. Therefore, you have to have higher quality. Therefore, you hire better people and you pay them more money. This is so basic. I mean, what world do you guys live in? Honestly.
I want to also mention, because this came up earlier in the week and somebody just brought up in chat, we are working on getting the Sargon debate. What happened was basically, very embarrassing. I've got egg on my face. I requested a debate with Sargon from an account that looked virtually the same as his last fake account on Twitter. However, it was a fake account of Sargon's fake account. Very meta. But anyway, I am working on finding Sargon so we can have him back on again. And so thanks for your patience with that earlier this week. But in the meantime, thanks for your question. This one coming in from Sphincter of Doom strikes again, says, real socialism was implemented in Catalonia through a worker rebellion and failed within 2 years.
You all know you'll have more on this, so I'll leave this to you.
I don't think so. Because if they failed, then socialism didn't get implemented, did it?
Wow. So if something fails, it mustn't have been socialism?
Are you kidding me?
Wow.
Wait, but hold on. If you're trying
it can't possibly be socialism, ladies and gentlemen, if it doesn't work. You heard it from
That's literally what you said. That's literally what you said.
The horse's mouth.
All right.
That's what I said.
Wow.
What,
Holy-
hold on,
fantasy
hold on,
land you live in.
guys,
Epic.
hold on a second. What an
Wow.
energetic! I love the energy.
Wow.
You guys are fun. So let me jump into the next one. I hate
There, Owen
to
Wilson.
do this, but you guys, we have a lot of questions, and so by the way, folks, any sort of like silly or kind super chats, I'll read it in the post credits after the show. But otherwise, I'm going to try to go for just the most serious questions. This one coming in from appreciate it. Shigowire says, "I'm Norwegian. Equinor, Norwegian State Oil Company." So they are Norwegian, and for Equinor, which is a Norwegian state oil company, which owns a 33% of the offshore continental shelf. Norwegian government owns about 73% of Equinor.
State capitalism.
Gotcha. Next up, this one coming in from, Brenton Langle strikes again, and they say lightning doesn't strike twice. Here he is. He says, anarchist Catalonia did not fail. It was suppressed by the USSR. Catalan anarchists are an excellent example of socialism's success.
I from what I've read, that the socialist rebellion did, but I mean it failed because obviously the USSR suppressed it. So what our interlocutors apparently don't understand is that if you try to do something and you fail, then you didn't do it. So if you're working to implement some system, but then you fail at doing that, that doesn't mean the system failed. That means you failed at implementing it. That doesn't mean the system can't fail. It just means that in that particular scenario, you failed to implement the system.
Gotcha.
But I could be wrong on the Catalonia thing because I've only read a little bit on it.
Gotcha. And next, let's see. Thank you for your, it's like reading funny stuff in the chat. Sphincter of Doom says 2 years isn't enough to prove success. Ponzi schemes appear successful early on too.
I don't know who they're addressing. Obviously not me because I didn't mention anything.
I know he's a capitalist.
2 years.
He's a capitalist, but I'm trying to remember who said, but we may come back to that one. Brenton Langle says all capitalism is crony capitalism. Show me a capitalist who won't buy the government. I'll show you a fool who will lose his capital.
Actually, I could name a couple of capitalists who have not had any sort of instances of buying the government. George Lucas doesn't have any record of buying the government. S. Truett Catholic didn't have any records of buying the government. I don't think anybody's ever had anything from Steven Spielberg buying the government. Those are all billionaires. I don't think we've seen anything from, Kanye West buying the government. There are a lot of people but either way, the point is, all of that's actually irrelevant because the point is, as far as capitalism is concerned, is no, that's actually not the case, right? If what you're arguing for is a free market, then it doesn't matter if it's the people who have a higher profit margin or who want a higher profit margin who are getting the government involved. Any involvement on the part of the government is no longer free market. That is just by definition not free market anymore.
We must move on. I do appreciate your question. This one coming in, let's see. We'll give you a quick chance because I don't want to rush it too much. So who is that speaking?
That was me. More and more
Maddox.
regulation has been accelerating since FDR. Well, really started to spike with Woodrow Wilson, but accelerated dramatically starting with FDR. And the ability for the government to be bought has been dramatically exacerbated through the continued expansion of that government control of the free market. And the reduction in the actual free market has been executed by enabling bureaucrats to have control over the free market. It's amazing how people don't see that.
Next up, thank you for your question. This one coming in from Bugmaster says, all of the top successful economies today are mixed market economies. Coincidence?
Well, they're actually not. They're explicitly capitalist economies. What they do is they have many countries, but the United States really isn't in this list, have a strong social welfare system, but that's not socialism. The thing is, and this is the thing with conservatives, is that if you want to get people off of social welfare systems, just go to socialism because then they wouldn't qualify for those programs. And
next,
what are you?
We must move on. I hate to say it, but we do have a lot. This one is from Sphincter of Doom. It says regulatory capture isn't unique to capitalism, though.
Well, wait, what was the question again? I'm sorry.
Said,
I apologize.
No worries. They said regulatory capture isn't unique to capitalism, though.
Well, inherently no, but when you deal with worker cooperatives, they tend not to participate in the same level of regulatory capture that capitalist firms do, because they're not only trying to maximize profits for a small amount of individuals to line their pockets.
Dude,
Gotcha.
okay, hang on. I have to respond to this. I've got to respond to this one. This may be one of the stupidest things I've heard all night. Okay, so the employees that own this company have voted. Hang on. I'm gonna shut up. I'm not talking for a while. The employees of this company, who are the owners, they have voted.
No,
to
I was actually
a CEO.
I was interrupting.
You don't
I was trying to
think
stop.
they're-
Hold on, Maddox. Order, you guys. I was trying to interrupt you, Leo, so that Maddox
Okay,
could respond. We'll give him a chance to do a follow-up. So go ahead, Maddox.
So you don't think that the individual who gets elected by the employee owners of the company is going to take viewed as his responsibility to do the exact same actions that are currently being done by the CEO of whatever company right now in order
It's just
to
that they don't.
Dude,
I mean, I can give you all the sources. They don't.
you don't.
The work cooperatives
You don't. You're telling me that they're not taking advantage of the system in order to maximize their stake in the industry and the market share.
I've got to give Leo the
No,
last
they're
word.
not. They're really not. I mean, as simple as that. They're just not.
So you're
Because
saying that employee-owned companies are not trying to be
We've gotta-
successful? Is that what you
Guys, we have to end it somewhere for this question. I got to give Leo
are? You
the
saying they're
last
not trying to
word.
be successful? Is that what you're saying?
I
Next
heard your
up.
question. You keep arguing that success has to do with maximizing profits. It doesn't.
Expanding market, whether you're expanding your profits or not, are you trying to expand market share? Can you expand market
Right.
share?
Holy
Expand
shit!
market share?
Holy shit! I can't even respond. They're
Market share,
maximizing.
yes or no?
They're maximizing productivity and efficiency, which will inherently lead to greater profits.
We've
But they're
gotta
not.
jump.
They're not suppressing.
Okay.
those.
We're
So you
jumping
don't
to the
think they're gonna
next
do everything
one.
they can do in
Period.
order to
All
do
right,
that?
we've humored it. Next up, Bugmaster says, addendum, what is the practical difference between a total monopoly in a free market and a state monopoly under socialism?
Well, socialism isn't controlled by the state. Again, that's statism. That's why
Gotcha.
there's a difference between those two.
Juicy. And Crafty Gila says, free market capitalism relies on political repression to push through free market policies. How was Pinochet
Pinochet, yes.
more democratic than Stahl? And then you know the rest of in was the remainder of that word.
Well, I mean, that's just false. The free market does not rely on the how exactly did he word it? Exploiting or suppressing or something of a political class. That's just not true. In fact, technically speaking, capitalism doesn't say anything at all about whether or not you exploit another political class. Perfect example of that is China, relatively capitalistic, and yet they definitely will exploit other people. And in a very vicious dictatorial way. On the flip side, United States, almost equally as capitalistic, probably slightly more so, but only slightly. And yet we're significantly freer. So, I mean, really, that in particular doesn't have much at all to do with the economic system itself. The economic system just simply has to do with your enterprise and means of exchange and
Wait,
production.
Next
There aren't
up,
wage
I
slaves
do.
in
We
the
do have
United
we have a
States?
good amount of questions, guys. I hate
No.
to do this, but we want to remind you folks that all of our guests, including Steven, aka Cider, as well as Leo and CJ and Maddox, are linked in the description. So if you're enjoying this, you're like, hey, I want to hear more of them, hear more of those ideas. You can by clicking on their links right now. And Sphincter of Doom, thanks for your question, said Singapore's healthcare system is more privately funded than the U.S. and costs less than most, if not all, single-payer systems. Profits from insurance in the U.S. is 0.5% of healthcare spending.
I know that Leo has like at least 12 studies on this, so yeah, I'll give
Yeah,
that there.
they've got a mixed financing system, so it isn't entirely funded by the free market. And that's how it actually is in a lot of universal healthcare systems. So I failed to see the point that's being made, I guess.
Gotcha.
Whereas we have very, very, very little funding from the government compared to most other industrialized nations.
Gotcha. And
Whoa. Did you say very low? Dude,
True. I said very low as compared
what
to
percentage
I'll give you
of
this-
the United
this
States
one
healthcare
question,
budget is Medicare and Medicaid funded?
Well, are you talking discretionary or non-discretionary?
No. I'm
budget?
talking about the total amount of the industry. If you're saying there's not government,
Wait, but you're talking about government funding. So are you talking about discretionary or non-discretionary funding?
well, there's both actually.
It actually.
We have block grants. You ever heard of block grants?
Medicare.
Have
and
you
Medicaid,
ever heard of a
I believe, are
block grant?
Discretionary.
Have you ever heard of a block
Actually,
grant?
let me check on that. I'm pretty sure it's discretionary. I'm almost positive it's discretionary.
Next up, we got to give him the last word because that original question was targeting him. Corey S., thanks for your question, says, my multiple sclerosis meds are $6,208 per month in the U.S.
Shit.
And they say Obamacare, quote unquote, the taxpayer pays most of that. Same drug is 1/10 that price in the European Union. Socialism, quote unquote, isn't the issue. Drug companies writing our laws are.
Poggers.
Agree.
I could not agree with that statement more.
Next.
Could not agree with it more.
So there's actual agreement among, sounds like maybe all four of you. I don't know, CJ, you're the wild card. Or what do you think?
Well, no, I mean, I don't have any disagreement. The only thing that I would say is that I do think while certainly there's a lot of criminal activity, straight up criminal activity going on behalf of the pharmaceutical companies, I would also say that the answer, in my opinion, would be we do have to meet them somewhere, right? In the sense that in order to produce these things, there does have to be some level of profit margin. What happens a lot of times is groups don't have any sort of a profit outside of the United States. And so they very greedily, don't get me wrong, just completely skyrocket their profit margin in the U.S. to try and make up for it. Now, I'm not saying that's a good thing, but I am saying that I do think both extremes there are problematic, in my opinion.
Next up, Jim.
And irony is one of the first executive orders by our new president was to undo the executive order which forbade the ridiculous prices for like diabetes medication, for example. So now just what had been lowered has now skyrocketed again thanks to a undoing of that executive order.
Next up.
Yet he's a socialist and a communist. Very weird, isn't it? Almost like he's actually a centrist.
It's almost like he's a moderate right-winger because
We must jump up. Mark Reed, thanks for your question, says, nice debate. Stephen, Leo, and CJ had a great debate. Look at this backhanded compliment for Maddox. Had a great debate with plenty of well-made points. Please try to refrain from interrupting Maddox. It is tiring.
Who is that?
Your buddy,
Yep.
Mark Reed.
Who's Mark Reed?
Oh, Mark.
Next up, Jim Benton. Thanks for your question. Oh, man, I love it. Your public enemy number one, Maddox. I don't know, though. I mean, maybe Smokey. I was like, you're
So is this Mark Reed character? Does he have the balls to come debate me? We'll do timed responses. I'll go on mute and I'll eviscerate his little bitch ass. Let's go.
Oh, my
It'll be
goodness.
a change, but I suppose he could do it.
Speaking of
And
debate.
Stephen, if you want to have a
Hold on
one-on-one
one
debate with me,
second,
let's
you
do
guys.
it, bro. Timed response.
I've
Set
been
on it.
Hold on a
3
second.
minutes. I'll go
I've
on
been
mute.
asking
I'll go on.
that for
James will
a-
mute me. 3 minutes, and I will embarrass your ignorant little soy boy hair flipping ass. Let's
All
go.
right, next
I
up.
bet you a month's wages
all right,
it won't.
So much soy. Sphincter of Doom, thanks for your question, said, would either, these are my favorites, a call out. So would either Cider Import or Leo be willing to debate this topic with me in a future debate?
Who was that?
That's Sphincter of Doom.
Which topic is it?
This
Socialist-
topic that
Oh,
we're
this
debating
topic.
right
Oh,
now.
sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
Juicy.
Hashtag
I'd be down.
production.
Yeah, I mean, if it was okay with James, obviously. If who was it, James? Sorry, who was the question from?
Sphincter of Doom.
Sphincter of Doom. Yeah, if he was looking for someone else, preferably not Maddox, to team up with him, then I'm sure. And if you were okay with it, I'm sure that me and Leo will team up again.
Next
but I'm okay
up.
to go one-on-one.
Appreciate your question from Danny. Oh, wait. Let's see. Did I miss? Oh, Jim Benton asks, is there an after show? I think Math Pig, prefers Math Pig. Math Pig is hosting one I saw, and we're willing
No.
to also...
It's the Rage, Nakasuchi.
Oh,
Raging
okay. It's the Rage.
The Raging
We-
Atheist is happening.
So
yeah.
I pinned that at the top of the chat at one point. I'm willing to pin it again if it's in the chat. I'll keep an eye. Also, folks, want to let you know, no matter what side of these issues you're on, we're willing to link an after show. And so let us know if you want yours linked. We can pin it to the top of the chat or put it in the description if you get it to us before the debate. Shigawire says, Maddox has the social maturity of a 14-year-old. Jose Maria Arizmendarrieta formed Mondragon in 1956 without any external private funding, world's largest cooperative as of today with 80,000 workers Maddox.
And it has
Okay,
its
so
problems.
that was
Hold
addressed
on.
at me, Leo, not you. So
Oh, boo.
Hold on, let's hear from
apparently,
Maddox.
Haven't done the same
apparently,
fuck.
just like my opponents who don't listen, the person who asked that question didn't comprehend the
Irony!
fact
We have
that
to
I
actually
said
hear Maddox.
multiple times I have no issue with co-ops. If you want to do it, I got no issue with that whatsoever. So I'm not really sure what y'all's points are. You're acting like I'm somehow against the premise. I'm not. I'm against it being the forced model of economy. I don't know how difficult that is to comprehend.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm only laughing at Leo. I don't know if you knew he was muted. But Danny, thanks for your question, says, at least we all agree that the debate showed anarchism won't work. It was fairly off the rails tonight, I'll admit that.
True.
Next up, we have
Agreed.
Math Pig. Says after party on the Rages channel. Oh, that you're right. Okay. And Sphincter of Doom says if it failed, it couldn't have been socialism, quote unquote, is simply relying on unfalsifiability.
That's not
So
what
to
I
be
said.
fair, Leophilius did address that and clarify a little bit. However, I do want to take this opportunity to say something real quick before let Leophilius say something. I just want to say Catalonia was not suppressed by the USSR. If anything, you could suggest they were suppressed by Spain, specifically fascistic Spain. And I'm not going to say that argues very well against them, but I just wanted to clarify there was some misinformation around. I looked it up, and it's the Spanish who went after Catalonia, not the USSR, nonetheless.
Gotcha.
So
and
I'm gonna just really quickly, about 8 seconds. I'm gonna refrain from commenting because what I've read, I'm assuming is inaccurate. Because I feel that Brenton Langel, who commented on it earlier, is probably more informed on that than me, and he informed me that I'm just like wrong on what I said, and I'm willing to take that correction. So I would defer to somebody who knows more, and I trust what CJ just said, that it was the Spanish that were involved is accurate information.
next up, Justin, thanks for your question, said maximizing your profits is why manufacturing costs are moved to countries with slave or sweat labor with pennies to the dollar. Yay, capitalism. Woo.
Okay, well, once again, that is not something that necessarily has anything to do with capitalism itself. So, in other words, slavery law, right? You can have a capitalistic system that has slavery, and you can have a non-capitalistic system that has slavery. Slavery law has more to do with like what you have as far as your legal system is concerned, right? So, if you have a system where you have outlawed slavery, for example, and actually enforce that, which, to be fair, the United States does not, right? And I think hopefully we can find at least some agreement here. I would personally be behind a full-blown prosecution of, we mentioned the chocolate companies, Nestle for sure, full-blown prosecution of everybody involved in the slave trade there.
Agreed.
Gotcha.
Cool. I'm glad we agree on that. But I would, argue that if we have laws that are in place that outlaw slavery and are properly enforced, then, that is a completely a separate thing in a way. From the economic system that we actually maintain, unless we have like a serfdom or something along those lines, where it's like literally slavery is a requirement of it.
Gotcha, and thank you very much. Want to remind you folks, I got some more questions here, but all of our guests are linked in the description so you can hear plenty more from them. And this one's coming in from Sphincter of Doom, striking yet again, says 45 to 50% of U.S. healthcare spending is via government.
Yeah, that's discretionary spending.
Next, Gabriel K says, money doesn't exist without ownership. Good job, CJ.
Well, I mean, of course, but there's a difference between private ownership and personal ownership.
Juicy, and thank you very much for your question. This one's from Corey S. Statement saying AOC got the drug manufacturer to admit they make a profit in the European Union.
I've not heard that, but to be fair, if that's true, then good on her.
Juicy.
I think I remember reading something about that, and AOC does actually a lot more positive things than most people who would think that they're opposed to her would tend to believe.
Gotcha.
Well, I know that her and Ted Cruz were the only two members of Congress who tried to get big money out of the government in 2017, so I'll give her that credit too.
That's true.
Gotcha. And want to say thanks everybody for hanging out with us. We appreciate our guests so much that we have to let Cider get to sleep, as it's about 3:20 in the morning, Cider?
3:20, yeah.
Holy
3:20.
smokes. All right. And also, I hear that Maddox has to wake up extremely early as well with little sleep as he is now. So we want to say, though, we also want to say a huge thanks to Leo and CJ. We appreciate you guys being with us as well. It's been a true blast. And so all of these guys are linked in the description, folks. I will be back in just a moment with a quick post-credit scene to talk about some of the upcoming debates we've got. You guys, I don't know if you've seen our our page for the channel. We have been, oh my goodness, I am honestly beyond thrilled with how many epic new topics we have in the next couple of weeks. So I'll be back to talk about those in just a moment. But one last thank you to our guests. We really have appreciated having you guys with us.
Thanks so much, James.
And thank you again.
Great time.
My pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, that was epic. Really fun. I love the energy that these guys have brought. That was a really fun one. I know that sometimes I probably look a little bit cranky sometimes when I have to tell people to shut up. But I actually do. Deep down, I like it because it's like, you have no idea. It's so much more fun this way. It's a good time when people are passionate about what they believe. And so, it's water under the bridge. I can tell you in the kind of like behind the scene there, as I said goodbye to our guests, it was kindness and warmth, believe it or not. You guys might be surprised to hear that, but I do want to let you know that it's like, hey, we disagree. Well, people are always going to disagree. It's the nature. It's just the state of the universe and reality. It's just the way it is. You might as well get over it rather than wish that everybody just had to agree or not argue. It's like, well, let them disagree, let them argue. We'll still be friends anyway. We just have to adapt. Don't ask for a light load, ask for a strong back. And so anyway, do want to let you guys know about upcoming debates. You guys, I am pumped. I got to show you some of these. So it is honestly going to be epic, as we got a couple of things, big things coming up. I would say not even a couple. First, you guys, tomorrow morning, I am pumped for this. I will be moderating this one tomorrow morning, namely, Vegan Gains will be debating a professor not only on the ethics of veganism, but also on the nutrition of it. So I'm excited about that. I do love reading about nutrition and stuff like that, in addition to ethics, stuff like that. But it's fun that it's kind of a dyad or dual type topic. And so that should kind of switch it up a bit. And I'm confident these guys are both articulate. It's going to be a very good debate. So that's going to be a cool one. Also, though, tomorrow, you guys, I am sad. I won't actually be at this one, but I do have to let you know about it because it's nonetheless going to be epic. But Carissa, she actually set this up, and so I'm pumped that she did because it's going to be phenomenal. And Carissa, honestly, we just love her. She's tremendous. Seriously, an honest person, a kind person. And so anyway, on the bottom right of your screen, that is Endernax and Vosh, who will be debating on this topic tomorrow, you guys. So they'll be debating on socialism versus capitalism. You don't want to miss it, you guys. It's going to be epic. Unless you thought it was settled tonight. I mean, maybe you're like, yeah, it's settled. I got the answer now. No. You guys will not want to miss this. In fact, I'd say, hey, hit that subscribe button if you want to be sure you won't miss it live, as tomorrow is going to be a blast. And you guys, we are pumped. I've got to let you know about a couple others. One is that I'll throw this in the chat so that you can look at it as it's true. Darth Dawkins is going to return to Modern Day Debate. I'm not joking. He actually, Converse said, hey, will you come back to Modern Day Debate? We want to host you. And Darth said, don't overtalk me. Don't overtalk me, dude. But basically, that's not what he said. But he did say, I will not come back if James is there. So, I'm serious. So basically, Darth Dawkins, I'm putting this, Darth, let me put it here, Darth. I'm putting it in the live chat. And so Darth Dawkins will indeed be back next week against Mark Drisdale. I will for sure watch it. I guarantee you that, because I'm just excited. I can't wait to see. I don't mind. I mean, if I would be so lucky if he talks smack about me, I would just laugh. We're excited to have him back. I mean, we love him. So that you don't want to miss. That is linked in the chat, and I think I pinned it to the top of the chat. But thank you guys. I've got other debates to share, but I do want to quick say hi because I'm so sorry. Forgive me for my manners or lack thereof. And so Nicholas Cato Strode, thanks for being with us, buddy. Glad you're hanging out here. The more the merrier, friend. Tuss Beatbox, good to see you again. Says you got to turn your mic up when you're calling those guys out. Yeah, that's true. Sometimes my mic's a little bit low. As sad as it is, a Blue Yeti is probably supposed to be the most user-friendly mic, and I'm still figuring this thing out, just like Discord. And Spooky Bedhair says, I will always love these after-show chats. Thanks, Spooky. Seriously, that means a lot. And the Shepherd's Ambassador says, you don't tell people to shut up enough. Well, I can work on that. Doubting Thomas says, James, you're hilarious. Thanks. That's kind of you. Human Girl says, hey, yay. Stoked to have you here, Human Girl. And yes, Tuss, you're right. And Mark Reed, you're right as well. Carissa rules and is cool. And so that is fun. We really do appreciate. Sometimes like something comes up where I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got to do this paper. Carissa, can you jump in and help and moderate tonight? Because I just can't do it. And she's been willing to do stuff like that, which for me, it makes it so that I can actually get sleep at night. And so General Balzac says, that's because you don't screen your interlocutors. Remember, no giggling, James. Says Manic Pandas. That's so true. Corey S., good to see you, buddy. Says, I completely forgot about your after show. It's a short post-credit scene because we know other channels are kicking off their after shows, but I do like to get to just hang out with you guys, say hello, and plug other upcoming events that we think you might get a kick out of, we hope. And so, yes, I am. I would tell you, though, stuff I'm excited about, some of the other things that are coming up for this channel. I want to mention this, you guys. Not only Darth Dawkins, which will definitely be fun. I can't believe he's coming back. It's like crazy. But yes, not only Darth Dawkins, but Tyler Bluntman and Ariel Scarcella are supposed to come on next week. We're finding the exact date for that. That'll be on a controversial political issue that starts with the letter A. I can't even say it during the stream. And our dear friends Apostate Prophet and Nadir Ahmed will be debating whether or not the holy book of the Islam religion is dangerous. So that should be a juicy one, you guys. You do not want to miss that. So I am just excited. We've never had some of these topics. In particular, we've never had... I have to find out with Darth and Mark Drisdale are debating. I don't know for sure what the topic is. And so let me find that out for you guys. I got to email Converse. But yes, and the George said, hey, how you doing, man? I'm well. Thanks so much for asking, friend. It's good to see you. It's been a while. I remember your debate with Alex. You are a kind and patient soul. We appreciate that, buddy. Seriously. Chris Gammon says, woohoo. Hi, James. Hey, Chris. Good to see you, man. Thanks for coming by. And let's see. Romantic Panda says, remember no giggling. Oh, it's so hard not to. I giggled a little bit during this one, I think. I can't remember when, but third finger from the right. Got some smack talk revash. Well, it's going to be an exciting one tomorrow, though. This same topic. So, Vosh and Endernax tomorrow night will be debating socialism versus capitalism. So I'm sure the arguments will be different. So that should make it fun and interesting. Seminole Fan 291, good to see you, said, modern day debate, get a head count of all the socialist supporters so I can tell them where to send part of their income to me. That's clever. So let's see. Want to let you know, you guys, a couple of other things. One, the podcast, I'm so thrilled that so many people have found it useful. That's encouraging. It just keeps growing. In other words, more and more people seem to be enjoying it just based on the downloads. So I can see in the analytics the downloads. Everybody seems to have Apple Podcasts as their default podcast app. Am I right about that? Let me know in the chat. Because virtually everybody, not everybody, I'd say like 80, maybe 70% of the people who listen to Modern Day Debate on podcast, which, hey, you can. I mean, how convenient is that? You don't have to use your data. You can just download it on Wi-Fi, and then you can just listen to it whenever you want. I always I don't know if you're like me, I listen to like podcasts and things all the time when I'm like cleaning or just traveling, like biking or whatever, just because for me, it is like, I don't know, it's just nice to have something on, and I don't always have my full attention on it, but it's kind of like, it's fun to like, I pick up pieces from it. And so, but yeah, we have, oh, this is nice to have your feedback here. Let's see. Tuss Beatbox says, I'm on Spotify. Oh, nice. Let's see. We've got Colin Lorenz says, I use Spotify or Castbox, actually. Oh, okay. That's good to know. I used to use Podcast Addict. And so we do have a lot of downloads from there too, though. So that's kind of cool. So yeah, I will let you know that podcast, if you pull out your favorite podcast app and you find that we are not on that podcast app, feel free to email me. I can promise I will put in the application to get on that podcast app within 24 hours. Just let me, can you give me 24 hours since I opened the email? But I promise I'm pretty good about emails. So we really do want to get on every podcast app so you don't have to download a different app or something. And so I think we're on about 20 now. You can see on the right side of your screen, let's see, what should it be? Right over here, past the gentlemen in suits, nice. Past them, you can see on the far right of your screen, on about this high up, we have the most popular podcasts that we have downloads from, namely Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Again, Apple is just gigantic. Also, we're on Audible. So if you have one of the kind of a professional or the pro membership, you can listen to us on there as well, which is cool. That's nice. And we're on Amazon Music and Pandora and iTunes and Google Podcast. So like we're all over the place, which is exciting. Third finger from the right says, try to reach out to Stefan Molyneux for a debate. He might not come because they kicked him off of the tube, but it would be incredible. Hey, that'd be awesome. I would love it. I don't know if he'd be up for it. I've reached out to him before, but he probably gets a trillion emails, so I can't hold it against him for not responding. But I will, no joke, try. Human Girl says, what will the topic be with Darth Dawkins? I'm not sure. I really do have to ask Converse about that. But Caleb says, MDD is beta pod. We are, thanks for hanging in there with me. You guys, so sorry. Those of our Twitch chat, I'm so sorry. I am so slow to check the Twitch chat. But yeah, folks, I don't know if you know this. If you're hanging out with us on YouTube right now, want to let you know we are on Twitch as well. So want you to check that out. That is pinned to the top of the chat as of right now. And so want to let you know about that in case you prefer Twitch. And yes, you guys, check it out as we are really excited. But yes, General Balzac, we are on Audible, which is exciting. And so, hey, hopefully that's convenient to you. And What was I just going to say? 2 seconds. Oh, the Twitch chat. You guys were saying what podcast you enjoy. Let's see. Stripper Liquor says Stitcher is actually my favorite podcast app. Oh, I didn't know that. We do get a few downloads on there. It's like the fourth, maybe the third or fourth most popular. Probably fifth. I think it's like Apple Podcasts, super popular. Spotify, probably the number 2 guy, in podcasts. 3, Podcast Addict. No joke. 4, maybe Google or Stitcher. That I've got to check. But yes, Stripper Liquor says, we at Twitch are the redheaded stepchildren. I'm so glad to hang out with you guys. Xanos Carthage and Poor Lucy, Lozenge, and Nicholas of House Strode. Thanks for hanging out with us on Twitch as well. And yeah, we're excited. So I think do I understand right? So basically, want to let you know, I think you guys know better than I do. This is embarrassing. But if you click follow on Twitch, right? That's what lets you know if the person's streaming, right? And then if you do the sub, you get to use no ads and you get to use emoticons. I'm still learning Twitch. I'm embarrassed, you guys. Hey, bear with me. Boomer stuff over here. But yes, and let's see, keeping up with the chat on YouTube as well. Mark Reed says it's 33 degrees Celsius here. Absolutely lovely. That sounds nice. Good for you, buddy. Mike Keenan says modern day debate, Graham Hancock and someone quality debate. Thanks for letting me know about that. I still have to learn about your friend Graham. If you happen to have his link, if you know he actually wants to come on, that's one of the biggest helps, is that sometimes like when people say, hey, I actually know this person loves going on other channels to debate, and you let me know who it is, that helps a lot, because for me, I send out a lot of applications or requests to have guests on and never get a response. And that's okay. We're never entitled to host anybody, but I would say that, I can be more efficient if you let me know who you know is willing and wanting to debate. And top of the chat, Tuss Beatbox is right. I pinned it. How to use Amazon Prime for a free Twitch sub. So if you have Amazon Prime, you can actually use your Twitch sub. You have a free one that comes along with Prime. You don't have to use it, and it doesn't charge you extra or anything if you do use it. But if you want to and you haven't yet, you can use it on Modern Day Debate, which actually helps support the channel. And it's basically each month is $2.50, which you're like, hey, it's like, was that even worth it, James? Well, if you do it consistently each month, like let's say we got up to 100 people that did it each month, $250 per month. Like that's easily a plane flight, like a flight for a plane, because we want to do in-person debates again this summer. That's definitely like a one-way trip for sure. And depending on where you're going in the US, that could be a round trip. So yes, it could really help out. And so highly encourage you to consider subscribing to us on Twitch if you haven't already. And thank you to those of you who have. I've been super encouraged that a lot of people have. And I was like, thank you. Like, that's seriously kind. And Xanos Carthage says, I will continue to give you Bezos bucks. Thank you so much for doing that. That is really encouraging. It means a lot. And so we are excited about the future, you guys. And what was I going to tell you? Poor Lucy says, would it be cool if we could get a host from him or something? A host from Vosh? I don't know what you mean. But if Vosh is back on Twitch, good for him. I'm happy for him. And Doubting Thomas says, Graham Hancock would be huge for you, for your channel. Thanks for letting me know that. I still am embarrassed to say I don't know who it is, but I'm open. And the George said, I'm just wondering, what's your favorite debate topic to cover? That's a great question. I have to be honest. You guys are going to think I'm a kook, but I'm going to be real. I loved the Bigfoot topic. That was interesting. I get a kick out of the paranormal stuff. Like, that's fun to think about. I'm not always persuaded by all the ideas of, like, what is it called? Aliens and UFO and abductions and Bigfoot and missing 411 and all that. I'm like, I don't know. But I have to be honest, I do find paranormal, like spooky stuff like that, pretty interesting. And yes, but we are pumped, you guys. What was I going to mention? There was one other thing. Oh, if you happen to be, if you would be considered what a lot of people call woke, feel free, please do email me at moderndaydebate. Very simple, easy to remember. moderndaydebate, no spaces, no hyphens, just moderndaydebate@gmail. If you connect with us, we are looking for people who are woke to come on and make their case. We really do want to have everybody represented. And so I don't know if it's woke an insult. I feel like it's like, I don't know. I used to see people say stay woke, but then I think it was like it turned into an insult or something. I don't know. But let me know if you're woke. And by that, I mean a couple of examples. If you're like, hey, man, actually, I can pull up a list here. So, like, the topic of how about rigidity? If you are, like, into that topic, whether or not that's a real phenomenon, and you're like, yeah, I think it is, that kind of, like, is like a woke type thing. If you think Gina Carano, Star Wars Mandalorian star, if you think it was good that she got the boot, that she got fired, probably woke. If you were like, hey, man, cultural appropriation, I'm down with that. And by down with that, I mean like down with that. We ought to not have it. Maybe woke. I would say equity. If you're like, man, I'm more about equity than equality. If you're like, I'm like, but versus a person who would say they are more on equality, probably woke. Those are the topics we're looking for in particular, as well as BLM. And so we would just encourage you. Oh, and reparations, if you think that would be a good idea. Those are the topics that we mean when we say woke. So feel free, please do email me at moderndaydebate@gmail.com if you would like to defend the woke position. And so Tuss Beatbox says, I'm pretty woke, but depends on the topic if I'm comfortable to defend it in a debate. Let's see. Thanks for letting me know that. And Dado Pepanda, thanks for being with us, said, have you heard of Young Grippa 59? I don't think I have. But let me know if they want to come on, and depending on who it is and all that, we maybe would do that. So, have Meldrum versus Erica, says the Shire Crier. That, I've asked Erica, and I think she's on the fence. That would be a fun one, I agree. Let's see. Big Don says, how would you define woke? Yeah, I mean, it's really hard. It's kind of like, it reminds me of, who was it in the philosophy of language? He was like the Wittgenstein, and like the trick of defining a game. Woke is, it's like kind of this cluster where commonly, I don't really, frankly, I'm not like super strict on like it has to be defined this way. I honestly don't particularly mind how a person defines woke. But I would say there are things that correlate with it, correct? That's my only guess. I'm guessing, yeah, I mean, like, it's funny, are people offended but if I use the term woke? I don't know what's against the rules. But Madeline Powers, Big Don says, Madeline Powers is a good person if you want someone who's anti-BL. In particular, M. That's a possibility. Madeline Powers. So, do you know if Madeline Powers likes to debate? I don't know who Madeline Powers is, but I'm like, hey, maybe. I don't know. We are pretty open, though. We do want everybody to have their voice here on Modern Day Debate if we're really going to be like a diverse platform in terms of ideas, backgrounds. It's like we need diversity of thought. We need people who are woke, anti-woke, you name it. And so, let's see. Manuel, let's see, says if you, let's see, I don't exactly, I can't take sides. So Spooky Bet here says I'm woke, but you'll need GoFundMe to afford my fees. And Manuel says I love Young Rippa. Who is Young Rippa? And do you know if they want to do debates? And so I don't know. Larry Letts, thanks for your plug, man. We are on Discord, folks. So if you like hanging out there, I'm embarrassed to say I'm still just learning how to use Discord. Sorry, guys. It's hard. But we do hope you enjoy our Discord if it's fun. General Ballsack says, I'd be willing to run with another cancel culture debate, though I'm against. So probably not I'm probably not who you're looking for. Let's see. Maybe. And the George says, any flurfs need smashing? I don't know. We've done so many flat earth debates, or like, that's one of the reasons why I want to have some of these woke war debates. And it might be like a segment called like the woke wars, where we do different woke topics. And so that could be fun. But yes, we just basically open to flat earth, but we're like being more like, you could say, more seldom in our approach in terms of how often we host them. And the George said, James versus Carissa, who's the better moderator, but who would moderate it? Yeah, we'd have to have Converse moderate that one. But I have to say, we're so thankful for Carissa for the amazing work she does, and for Converse. I never mentioned Converse. Converse has helped us a ton, and I'm really thankful for that. So I appreciate Converse as well. And so Mark Reed says, generally the woke culture people don't mind being called woke, but some people are trying to demonize the term. Thanks for letting me know that. And General Ballsack says, Young Ripa is great. I don't think he debates, though. Good to know. If you guys know of people who are like, hey, man, this is a common, like, thanks, Larry Letts, who says, don't worry, James, Platium and I are keeping the place more or less civil. Appreciate that you guys do that. Seriously, Platium, I appreciate you as well if you're here. We do appreciate you doing that for the Discord, because I know I'm an absentee landlord or something like that. It's so I'm sorry about that. And Big Don says, do you think Vosh is woke? I don't know. I honestly don't know. There are some things where I know that he doesn't like woke scolding. I've heard him like kind of make a point of that, where a lot of the woke, what is the word I'm looking for? He objects to the mob. So, but yes. Let's see, we have General Ballsack says he's got a huge channel, big Marvel fan as well. Well, hey, you'd be crazy not to be. Glad he is a Marvel fan. And so, yes, though, we appreciate you guys. I'm so tired, you guys. I don't know if you can tell. I'm like kind of like wandering a bit. But want to say we do appreciate you guys. I'm going to look this up, Young Ripa. And we can ask. We can say, hey, Young Ripa, would you like to come on? And, hey, what have we got? What have we got to lose? It's worth a shot. So let me just type his name in here into the old tube, and then we'll see if I can find his channel. Oh, okay, yeah. Here he is. And it looks like he said he's got a recent video on... I love his channel art. It's beautiful. That's kind of what I would like to have in terms of channel art, because his looks great. Oh, I didn't know that you can like plug your Twitch on your YouTube channel, like the way he has it on the link that you can click on top of his YouTube banner. Good for him. That's pretty cool. I love it. Oh man. Okay, but he had a video combating the left's political monopoly on entertainment. Juicy. Okay, so he's probably, would it be fair to say he's not woke? Hey, I'd be willing to ask him. I'm open to it. We'll see if he'd be willing to come on. And so I really would love to get people from all walks of life. We have to have diversity of thought, folks, and diversity of background as well. But diversity of thought, we really, I know it's going to step on people's toes once in a while when we have like woke debates, but I think it's going to be fun stepping on their toes. So we do appreciate all of your guys' support. And Human Girl says, go look, James. He's on YouTube. Appreciate that. Fight the Flat Earth versus Nathan Oakley would be an interesting debate. I agree. That would. I don't know. Let me see. That could work. I've got to find out. But want to say thank you guys just for hanging out. Seriously. Are you guys... FK, thanks for that note, by the way, on the Nathan Oakley idea. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. We hope this feels like a community. I remember one time, this is like near Christmas, a woman shared that if I remember, she had shared that her father had just passed. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that's heartbreaking. I hope if you happen to be out there, ma'am, Mrs., whatever you prefer, I hope you're doing okay. We all do. And so I just want to say, I hope that you guys feel like this is a community. I know we disagree, but I love you guys. And there are some of these debates, a lot of them I don't even have an opinion on. I'm just like, I haven't really read enough. But I do have an opinion on some. And I could say, even if I don't agree with you on topics, the point of tolerance was that you care for, or at least are willing to kind of like engage with people who disagree. Think about how silly it would mean, if you said, oh, I tolerate you. I tolerate the fact that you and I agree on everything. It's like, it doesn't even make any sense. The funny thing is, tolerance used to be like kind of like trying to be like, oh, you should agree with everyone. Just say that everybody's right. You can't say that you've got the only correct view regarding socialism or capitalism or whatever else. And it's like, that doesn't even make any sense. Tolerance necessitates there's disagreement. It doesn't make sense to say I tolerate the fact that you and I agree on everything. So my point, though, is this. Folks, we come from many different walks of life. We disagree on some things, no doubt about it. But nonetheless, we're a community. We care about you guys. I care about you. I love you guys. We agree on some things, despite our disagreements on some things. For example, one thing we agree on is fair debates. We want this to be a neutral platform where our vision is to host fair debates on a neutral platform so that everybody can have a chance to make their case on a level playing field. And so we really do appreciate that together, no matter what walk of life we're from. We also appreciate and enjoy and are for the charity stream that we do once a month. And so that should be coming up in the next, we've got about 2 weeks as we've got to still schedule that, but we are excited about it. And we're like, hey, feeding starving children across the globe, I think everybody here would say, yeah, like that's a good cause. We're excited about that value or goal and working together on that. And so that's another thing, folks. It's like we are all in the same boat on that as well. And so we have a lot in common, folks, to where it's like, hey, what are you going to do? We're always going to disagree on something. Nonetheless, we have these broader categories that unite us, such as wanting fair debates and wanting to do good for the world. And so let's see. L says, have Lance on. Is he woke? I don't know, but I've heard of him. I know who Lance is. We've emailed back and forth. And but I don't know. Is he woke? I honestly don't know. I know he leans politically left. And so I don't know if he'd be like far enough to be considered woke. Let me know. I don't know. But I just appreciate you guys. Seriously, you make my day. You make my night. You make it fun. We'll be back tomorrow morning. So let's see. And so about 12 hours from now, no joke, a little over 12 hours. I think it'll be 13 hours because it's 10 a.m. So yeah, 13 hours from now, I will be getting back in this seat and getting ready for another debate because we're going to have vegan gains against a professor tomorrow. It's going to be a blast. We're really excited about that. I have to protect the professor's identity. So I'm just going to call him Professor. So like that's his name to me. And so we are excited, though. We think it's going to be fun. And let's see. Big Don says, Brendan Fraser memes. I don't get it. But Manuel says, Xander Hall is an even bigger gem. I would 100% watch a debate with him, live with him. I can ask him, is he woke? Is Xander Hall woke? And then Tuss Beatbox says, Lance is pretty woke, I think. Thanks for letting me know that. But yeah. So yeah, I'll be back in 13 hours, you guys, with Vegan Gains and Professor. That's right, Professor Xavier. It's going to be epic, you guys. You don't want to miss this. That's at the bottom right of your screen. And then, not only that, but tomorrow's going to be a big day, you guys. Like, holy smokes. Big time debates in terms of Professor versus Vegan Gains. That's going to be epic, like a high-level debate, quality debate. So that's going to be really fun to watch. But then also, you guys, we're pumped that tomorrow night, Endernax and Vosh will be debating this topic from tonight, namely socialism versus capitalism. Holy smokes. So this weekend is honestly, it's going to be epic. And so thanks, guys. This one tonight was a blast. We appreciate our guests. They're still linked in the description if you want to hear more from them. And Big Don says, Xander Hall is pretty woke. Well, that's good to know. We can definitely reach out and see if Xander Hall or if Lance would be up for doing a Woke Wars debate. But yeah, what do you guys think about that? Would it be lame if we did like Woke Wars, basically a series where we debate different woke topics? I feel like that would be fun. So if we start the Woke Wars series or the Woke Wars series, and then maybe started with like, I don't know, you guys name it. Let me know what you would like to see, and then we'll try to get people who are willing to defend those views. Honestly, we never, and by honestly I mean we don't do devil's advocate debates. Other channels do them, and that's cool. I think there's value in them. I don't deny that, but they're not what we're going for here. And so it'll be real. I can assure you. FK says, love his channel. He took on Hovind. Who did? Let's see. Oh yeah, I've reached out to Genetically Modified Skeptic. I think that we can definitely try to get him on in the future. So let me give it a shot. We'll give it the old college try. Corey S., thanks for your support, says, let's see. Don't overwork yourself, James. I appreciate that, Corey S., seriously. And let's see. Big Don says, that would make for some good content, James. That definitely would. Oh, I'm glad you think it would. You're talking about the Woke Wars series. I think it would be super fun. And let's see. And the George said, giving some crap to our woke friends. But let's see. But yeah, we are excited about it. Yeah. Spart344 says, hey, good to see you, by the way, Spart344. Man, it's seems like it's been a while, friend. Glad you're back. And Spart344 says, though, try to get Rationality Rules. He's a great one for the trans issues in sports. Oh, that's juicy. I will definitely try to do that. So thank you guys. Want to say we do appreciate you so much. So I hate saying goodbye. I honestly just wish I could be here and like just read the chat and hang out with you guys forever. I'm not kidding, because I'm just happy. Like right now I'm like, hey, I feel quite content. Lenny Cash, thanks for coming by and hanging out with us. Let's see. I know who you're talking about, this Skrillex fellow. I remember that guy in that video. Was he the one that said you're an effing white male? I can't remember, but yeah. We let's see. We are excited. We appreciate you guys. Spart344, thanks for the love, bro. Hope you're doing well. Airnux, Mark Reed, always glad you're here. And the George said, Genetically Modified Skeptic is very entertaining. Would love to see him on. That'd be fun. We'll definitely reach out. Hey, we'll see. And Manuel said, get Romanian TV. You won't regret it. But do they do debates? I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm happy to ask. But let me know if they do debates, because a lot of people, they're like just not into debates. And if I know like who's willing to debate these topics where they're like, oh yeah, like I enjoy doing debates on other channels, like that helps me a lot. Nicholas Cato Strode. Lenny Cash says, LOL, that's him. Yep, okay, I do know who he is. That's funny. We've never had him on. It'd be fun. We should see if we can find him. I was trying to think of somebody else. Who am I thinking about recently in terms of who we've had on or not? I still definitely want to reach out to William Lane Craig. Oh boy, Albert Bitcoin is back. He's at it again. If you don't know, folks, Albert Bitcoin is our friendly neighborhood bot. We think he's a bot. We don't know for sure, but we're pretty sure. So I pinned him at the top of the chat because, he's just spitting truth bombs on us. But Human Girl says, you're so sweet, James. I gotta fly. See you, awesome people. Thanks so much, Human Girl, for your kindness. Stephen Foster says, Cosmic Skeptic. Oh, for sure, man. We would love to have Alex back on. Really pleasant guy. Like down to earth, easygoing. Good for him that he's had so much success in terms of his YouTube and his TikTok. Everything has turned to gold. Everything he touches. And he's a humble, kind person he's just even keeled. He's not all like braggadocio or condescending. People love that. And I get why they love that, because it's like, hey, thanks for like being so cool about not letting the success go to your head. So I could just go on and on about how much I do appreciate Cosmic Skeptic's demeanor, how he debates, just the person. I really do appreciate him. And yeah, we love having him on. So, but yes, absolutely. Spart344 said, I'll be here for the Vegan Gains Professor Xavier debate. That'll be awesome. I'm stoked that you will be here for it. And the George said, have you ever reached out to H-Bomber Guy? I bet he'd love to debate some of the people you've had on. That would be cool. Let me reach out to him. Let me put his name in the list, as I think that'd be fun. I seriously, I think the more the merrier. We want to get people. I honestly, I'm not. You guys think I'm joking, but I seriously, I'm not trying to insult people by using the word woke. I don't know what's cool. I don't know what's hip. I'm just kind of learning yet. But yeah, we're pumped, you guys. Let me find this here. Yep, we're pumped. We got a lot of fun stuff coming up, you guys. It's honestly, it's going to be epic. And so, thank you guys so much for your huge support. Thank you for everything. We love you guys. You guys make this channel fun. So I hope you know that, seriously, it means so much. Dado Panda says, what if Ben Shapiro was on a debate in this channel? That would be epic. I've never reached out to him because I've heard he costs $50,000. Maybe we could get a discount. I don't know. But I agree, it would be epic. And so we will try. No joke. But Test Beatbox says, Pog, James back at it. Thank you. I think it means like a fat butt white guy. Is that what Pog means? Tioga taught me that. But let's see. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Seriously, appreciate you. Love you guys. And yeah, we are pumped for tomorrow. And so don't miss those live debates, you guys. One thing too, people tell me that sometimes they don't get notifications. So when you do, if you've already hit subscribe, or if you hit subscribe now, one thing to pay attention to is if you look at basically on the video while you're watching it, and you go down to the subscribe button, you click subscribe, and then it shows you the bell on the right side of where you hit subscribe. And if you click on it and then click all, because it has this little drop down menu, it'll give you every notification. So in other words, that way you for sure won't miss any of our live events, as we're excited, you guys. It's just been so fun, and I'm so pumped for all the fun stuff I've got going on. And so thank you guys so much for your your support. It's exciting. We have big things planned for this year. We're going to grow bigly. And by bigly grow, I mean like influence you guys. I'm excited that so subscribers, like I'm excited, like 40,000. It's a lot of influence in terms of like this equal debate platform, hopefully influencing the world for good. And I'm excited about our growth, but I'm got to tell you, I'm even more excited about the fact that it's like just a lot of people seem to be enjoying the content. And so that's encouraging. We hope it's of value. Let me know if there's something we can do to like increase the value of this channel to you, as we do want it to be that for you. We want it to be fun and informative and all that good stuff. And so thank you guys so much. But Moomin Rider Bicyclist for Justice says, thanks for explaining to 15-year-olds how to subscribe and ring that bell. That's worse than hearing www. Before a website these days. That's true. You guys probably know how to use the bell. So I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. I hope you have a great rest of your night. And I'll be back. That's right. 13 hours from now, Vegan Gains is taking on the Professor. It is honestly going to be a blast. And so you guys don't want to miss that at the bottom right of your screen. Thanks, everybody. Keep sifting out the reasonable from the unreasonable. Be in touch. Shoot me an email at moderndaydebate@gmail.com if there's something I can do to support you, if there's something I can do to make your day better. Thank you guys. Love you guys. Have a great rest of your night or day, depending on where you are. Take care. Keep sifting out the reasonable from the unreasonable.